Record, and there's a 3-minute time limit, please.
Abilene site. It's been, I think, vacant for like 15 years. So lots of collaboration, partnership, and we'll be looking to do some things. The city has always worked well with us, and to make sure that we are serving Abilene, the whole city. This project is a really big project, and it will not happen overnight. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint, but today at 11 o'clock, we are having a ribbon cutting ceremony there, and it's at 2726 North 18th Street. So I did not know that I was going to be conflicting with this special retreat, but I still wanted to definitely offer you guys to like come out and just see the plans and see what that we are wanting to do for the school. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming.
Tammy Fogel, citizen, resident of Abilene. Feel a little weird and discombobulated because I didn't know that this was a retreat. Although I know what retreats are and workshops, I find it interesting when we change things up. So I'm excited for that. And of course, I always like having information beforehand so that I can be a little bit more prepared in what I was saying. Or what I wanted to come and talk about. And I love that Abilene ISD donated that facility to Let Us Breathe. So they can use that instead of it sitting empty. As far as a citizen observing this process over the years, I was just telling the city manager, Emily, that 4 years ago, if you told me to look at a budget, I would have laughed in your face because there's no way I would do that. But now I'm actually spending time reading it, taking notes, and helping other citizens understand it. And so from what I understand in the budget timeline, that this is a time where y'all make some decisions on the agenda and where you want to go with next year's workshop. And I used to think July was the time because that's where we presented it. But by that time, it's pretty much set concrete and no one wants to tear it up and start over. So I did encourage citizens to give their input. And a lot of people are like, I don't even know what my priorities are. And I think that's good because we need to start understanding what it is so that we can communicate better. And I do believe all of y'all got my email where I communicated that I do think one of our priorities this year is to resolve this fireman retirement fund debacle of $70 million and get that taken care of. I know there's steps in the work that are being, there's things being taken place that are moving in that direction. But I was also concerned when the meet and confer was not decided on, and I found that out after, maybe it was last month, that it ended in September and they extended it to April. So again, I want to make sure, as I've read in the budget, our priorities are public safety. And these firemen and the police both need to be prioritized. And I hear all about the non-civil servants and their retirement and their COLAs and all this stuff, but I don't hear that communicated to the public as much in these environments. So that's a huge focus that I think we need to resolve and at least have a plan in place so that we are taking steps to resolve this. The second thing is streets, infrastructure. I'm not sure how that's working and where that process is. It's hard as a citizen to understand that, but I do know that as a person who has spoken at City Council and has attended City Council, many people still come up to me and talk about the streets. And again, we've had this conversation, or at least I've spoken to y'all about it many times. And I know that y'all have one opinion of it, and there's just a disconnect. So we've got to focus on making sure that's something that's discussed and talked about in a more productive way. And of course, transparency. Always, I know that there's presentation slides prepared ahead of time, and even if you posted it this morning, it would be helpful for citizens to be able to follow along and not have to figure out where it is. Because I'll ask for them, and I'll get them, because that's my right as a citizen to have whatever you share here. But it just is not made available to the public. So we need transparency even in these great kind of environments for conversation. So I think that's my time. Anyway, thank you. I look forward to a great morning and afternoon of discussion.
Still in the public comment period. Would anyone else like to speak at this time? Seeing no one, I will close the public comment period. Before we start, this is not an agenda. This is just kind of a flow chart. So just so council knows, this is just somewhat of a timeline. We don't have to stick exactly with that. So I will now turn it over to Emily Crawford, City Manager, to introduce SGR and how the retreat is going to work today.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to, first of all, introduce...
Hello. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to introduce Dr. Mike Mowry. He is the President of Leadership and Strategic Foresight, thank you. That's a big name for a business card. With SGR, as you know, we at the City of Abilene have partnered with SGR for many years. And Mike specifically was recommended to me as being an excellent facilitator. He has been doing council workshops and retreats for over 15 years. Prior to that, he had a 20-year career in ministry. And if you can run a church, I think you can run a city. So he has quite a bit of experience working with people, helping people come together, dialogue, and so that is the point of this retreat time, is to take the time to truly converse about Abilene, the future of Abilene. As we know, Abilene has changed significantly just over the last year and a half, 2 years, and we want to make sure that the council has the time to truly dialogue about where you see the city going, what initiatives that you would like us as staff to engage in, and what our goals and priorities are. And so with that, I will turn it over to Mike.
Okay. Thank you, Emily, and nice to be here with you, Council and Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to work with you. I have to tell you, I was going to come up yesterday and spend the night here. My wife said, "Oh, why don't we go on a bike ride?" We live pretty close to the lake in Grapevine. She said, "Let's go on a bike ride, and you can go up early in the morning." And so we did, and then we got off the trail, and she ducked under a tree branch, and I tried to kiss that tree branch. And so, you know, it imprinted itself on my cheek. And I thought, I should have just gone to Abilene early if it was going to be like this. But anyway, I survived, and that's that. But I would not recommend either being a tree kisser or even a tree hugger. So there you go for that. But look forward to the time with you today. I'm going to share some things kind of early on, maybe a little bit more presentation, but we'll move pretty quickly to letting you guys talk to each other. We'll do some kind of free-flowing conversation. We'll do some where you get in twos and threes, talk for 10 minutes or so, bring you back, let you report out. We'll be doing the same with the staff. So they'll be busy talking. So it's really an opportunity to kind of think and dream big about the future. And when we did our one-on-one interviews, I shared with you guys that my wife and I are from the Texas Panhandle. We grew up in Dumas, up north of Amarillo. What I might not have mentioned was that my dad was one of 13 children, born in the 20s and then raised in the Depression, was a World War II vet. He was not a farmer, but my grandfather was a sharecropper. And by the time I came along in the early 60s, I had cousins and uncles that were farmers. And so, as is the case with a lot of people, maybe some of you, I spent the summers early in my life on a tractor plowing. That was what we did. And it was a great life. It was a great life. But in those days, the way they taught you to plow is very different than the way we teach kids to drive. When we teach kids to drive, we tell them maybe the most important thing is stay in your lane. That's right. That's right. Even if you're going too fast, we don't want them to go too fast, Chief. But if they do and they're still in their lane, you're okay, or too slow. Get out of your lane, that's a problem. But if you try to plow like that, so that you think I'm kind of following my rows, I think I'm good, then what happens is when you get to the end of that field and you look back, your rows will be just all over the place. And it's not just that doesn't look good, it's that you can't use them to plant because you need straight rows to plant. And so the way they taught you to plow, this is long before we had GPSs on tractors. In fact, in my family, it was long before we had air-conditioned cabs. You know, we just had West Texas wind. But the way they taught you to plow was when you were on the edge of a field, you got your eye fixed on some stationary object at the other end of the field. could be a fence post, could be a diesel filling tank, could be a broken down pickup, didn't matter. But you just had to know that's where I'm plowing, and then you just get your eye on it and you plow to it. And it's not very fun. It can be kind of boring, but you just, and you don't worry about, do I think I'm going straight? What's the terrain do? What about, you kind of just tune that out. You say, that's where we're going. And if you do that, when you turn your offset around, your rows will be just as straight as they can be. And the reason I'm saying that is because for me, that's become my big metaphor for strategic visioning, which is your responsibility as a council, as elected officials. Because it's so easy, because you want to be, and you should be, sensitive to the public. And you got on here to serve. But sometimes you can get so that you're like so moved by this and that you shift very quickly. And it's not just that that's not the best, it's that you have to cast vision, right, so that staff can follow. And just like plowing needs straight rows to plant, staff, to be at its best, has got to be able to have predictability about where you're going. And so what we want to do today is figure out collectively what's on that fence post, or where is that fence post? What's the direction that this council feels like this city needs to go? And I think that's a little distinct from if, Shane has his two priorities and Lynn has his two priorities and Mayor has his and so forth, but they're not connected, they're not cohesive. What we need is a coherent, unified, if I could say it that way, vision. And I think in talking with you guys, there's very much that. And so, but today, we want to really take a look at it, articulate it. It's going to feed back into the budget, as the mayor said. But today, we're going to kind of step back and say, where is it we're going? So we make a distinction between the phrase strategic vision and strategic plan, even though I know we use those words interchangeably. But if you think about it, a strategic vision is about direction and priorities. And that is, by virtue of the charter, elected officials' responsibility. You cast the vision. You set the priorities. But a strategic plan is about procedure and budgets and personnel and initiatives. And that largely is the responsibility of the staff. Not that you don't weigh into it, but they end up being the executors on most things. So this is a little diagram we created. It's not perfect, and I'm going to point out some of the imperfections as we go. But I think it helps kind of give us a picture of where we're at. So you could start it at any place, but let's start it at the top there with community input. So this is where you're getting input from your community through surveys, through community engagement events, through coffee at the Dairy Queen or Starbucks or whatever, and you're hearing from people. This is what we want to be. This is what we want to accomplish. And then you're taking that, you're weighing that, and then you're going to get input from your staff. Now you're free to take some, none, or all of what staff has to say, for sure. It's your call. But most effective councils want to know, well, what are you seeing in public works? What do you see in public safety that's happening? What's going on in planning and development on the horizon that we need to know about? So you're getting that input. But then there comes a time when you've got to take what everybody's saying and you got to say, well, here's what we think. And that's where we say City Council envisions. So we're going to ask you today to think about what do you want for Abilene to be like 5 or 10 years from now? What's your vision for this collectively? And then we're going to work backwards from there. So you're going to create that vision. Under that, we're going to create objectives that kind of tell a little bit more about your priorities. And then Emily and the staff are going to create what we call the strategic work plan that says, okay, council, if this is where you want to go, then this is how we think you can get there. And then at some point, you have the opportunity to affirm that. And largely that's through the budget process, but also through dialogue. And there's a lot of give and take. There's a lot of give and take between that because, you know, the big question you have to answer as a council, this comes from John Carver, who's kind of the master on board governance. He says there's 3 questions you have to answer. What good are we going to do? What's the good we're going to accomplish? For what group? Who's the people that are going to benefit from it? And at what cost? What's the price point that we're willing to go at? And so you may create this vision, and manager comes back and says, okay, here's how you can go, and this is the price point. And you go, whoa, we can't know that's not that we can't do it that fast. So okay, that's no problem. This is good governance. Let's create a longer timeline, or let's cheapen a little bit some of this or that. But you create an agreement that says yes, that's in alignment with what we want, and then it's largely the responsibility of staff to execute. I'll tell you, in almost every setting I've been in that we've been successful with, you hear at some point, council will say something like this. They'll say, well, yeah, we're getting the credit, but really it's the staff that does it. It's the staff that gets all this stuff. They're the ones. And then you will hear staff say something to the effect of, well, that's true, but we couldn't do it if council didn't do their part. So it's the same team, different responsibilities, different roles, right? And by the way, the flip side of that is that almost without exception, when we work with cities that are really struggling, what you hear from council is it's their fault, you know, and then what you hear from them in secret is it's their fault, you know. So you gotta figure out where are we going. That's our job today, and then their job is okay. How do we get there? And then, no matter how far along you're in it, at some point you got to stop and evaluate and say, okay, what's changed? What are the new dynamics here? Let's reevaluate. So this is years ago now. You'll probably remember this. You've been in West Texas for a while. Plainview, city of Plainview called us and said, we want you to come do a council retreat. And we make some plans for it, you know. And between the time we had said we're going to do it and the time we could start it, Cargill closed their operations there. Huge blow to them, you know. That was a game changer. But because they sort of caught it early, they adjusted. And Jeffrey Snyder came in as their city manager, who stayed there a long time. And man, they had incredible success. He's since moved on. I've forgotten who the new manager is there. But that was a game changer that when you evaluated, you had to make some adjustments. And, you know, some things like that happen, right? You're experiencing some of that now with data center. But every so often, you got to stop and adjust. All right, let me stop and get your thoughts on that. But before you say it, let me point out one error of this. I don't mean to suggest that the only time you should get community input is at one fixed point. Because really, if we were really drawing it properly, we would show that you're getting input all the time. But it kind of messes up, makes it too busy of a diagram. I think you need both a specific time where you're kind of set apart time to listen to community, as well as being open to them all the time. But that's just one thing. Thoughts on this diagram and kind of where we are today with that?
Like
Looks good to me.
Looks good. Okay.
Well, I would like to say it's just like community input, even before this meeting. And I don't mean to pick on Mr. Bings, but he had sent an email. And I was very appreciative of you and your wife both. And, the community input is very important when we start this process. And those emails and input that we get. So, and you're right, that's a continuation. But when we do start this process, we do want to know. And I'm just picking on him, but we, lots of emails and lots of input from even business leaders around town. So I think that community involvement is very important.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And then figuring out how it fits into the overall strategic vision is really crucial too. And I remember one time I was doing a council retreat, and you came in, and boy, you could cut the air with a knife. And what had happened was they had a brand new council member in this fairly small city, and he was wanting to be very responsive to the public. It's a good thing. But so somebody would get on Facebook and say, we've got I'll make this part up a little bit, they've got a pothole on 18th Street, and he would see it, and it was in his district, and so he would respond, we'll get right on that. Well, that created some trouble for the staff, but that really wasn't where the tension was. The tension was with his fellow council members, because they were beginning to get pressure like, well, why don't you do that for us? Well, it's my, and they were like, hey, there's a plan, and he's just like completely circumventing that plan. Now, he had a perfect heart. I mean, he was not meaning to be out of line at all. And once we kind of were able to de-escalate the emotions a little bit and talk about it, it got straight. But that's why this helps. Say, okay, there's already a plan. We've got to have a way that these things get communicated to staff and they fit into the queue, so to speak. All right, one more thing I want to get you going on here, and then we're going to get you talking with each other. This is a diagram that we created about the time I came on, and this was a conversation that started with where do classes fit. We were trying to say make sure we had classes in all the right areas, but we really quickly realized this is not really a conversation about where classes go in our catalog. This is really a diagram of leadership. And so I just want to spend a few minutes kind of getting you to think about this. I would say that the foundation of all legitimate leadership is healthy relationships. That's the foundation. And at that level, people will follow you regardless of your title or what your job is in the organization or how long you've been on council. They'll follow you really based on how you treat them. That all things being equal, we're more likely to cooperate with someone that treats us with dignity and respect than if somebody who just grunts at us, and doesn't even care about us. So that's the foundation. Whether you're elected official, council, resident, you gotta get along with people. Then the next level, though, is what we call operational leadership. And at that level, people will follow you and cooperate with you because they believe that you know more about the process than they do. So you've been through budget cycle as a council member, and so a new member on council kind of looks to you and goes, well, how does this work? How does this go? Or you get promoted in the organization and now you're a supervisor. But the key thing to remember is that just because you're living at an operational level of leadership does not mean you can abandon relational leadership. And we've all known people that knew everything about the job, at work or maybe on council, but they failed kindergarten when it came to knowing how to get along with people. And that person, I don't care what city they're in or what organization they're in or what industry they're in, is always frustrated because people just won't do what they're supposed to. And I have to fire that one and I have to get onto that one. And they don't ever stop to realize maybe it's because of how you're treating them. And that goes certainly from council to staff. And most of the time it's very good. Once in a while I see it, I'm going, man, that's causing a problem. Then the next level is what we call systems leadership. And at that level, people will follow you because they trust that you are putting into place systems that work for the whole, even if you're not there to make it work. And you know, this is really where most of the time of people in this room, both staff and council, needs to be spending their time. Now, you're not necessarily in the weeds and creating those systems, but you are saying to staff, hey, we need a system that handles this. This system isn't working anymore. And you know, just like you think about when you're raising your kids, you get a system for how they get to school and who picks them up and how they get to soccer practice and all that. But as they get older, what do you have to do? You have to change that system because it doesn't work anymore. And it's the same way with cities. As you grow, the systems that used to work for you become outdated. As technology changes, the systems that we used to use are no longer useful. Anybody use a fax machine lately? Right? No, probably not. If you did, come talk to me. But that used to be cutting edge, right? I remember when somebody said to me, you need to get an email account. And I literally asked them, why would I ever want that? You know, like, duh. So you gotta create systems that work. And this is where, you know, in an oversight capacity, you have to be helping analyze, are our systems still working for our residents and for our organization? But then the highest level of leadership is what we call strategic leadership. And strategic leadership is different from the others in a couple of ways. Strategic leadership is all about the future. That's one way it's different. Because all these other things have to do with now. How are things working now? How are we relating now? But strategic leadership is about where are we going? It's about the future. And it's really important because people will follow you at that level because they believe, A, that you're leading the organization in the right way, in the way it needs to go, and this is very important, they can see themselves in that future. It's a preferred future that gets them excited, it elicits commitment, and they can see themselves in it. And I have seen a few times, and I won't tell you the city I'm thinking about right now, where the council envisioned a future, but a large segment of their residents did not see themselves in that future as a preferable future. And it caused a lot of backlash. And eventually they had to come back and revise it. So, you know, that's why that community input thing is really important all the way around. Because, you know, you can't fall in love with something that doesn't resonate with your residents as a whole. Now, sometimes, and we always got to give a little, that's what community is about. But that's really crucial. Here's the second way strategic leadership is different than the others. Strategic leadership is all about culture. It's all about culture. You grow leaders from the ground up. Nobody does that better in my mind than the U.S. military, no matter what branch you're talking about. They're the best at it. But you instill culture from the top down. Culture in the city of Abilene starts with this council. You establish it. What kind of decorum are we going to have? Will we treat our neighbors with dignity and honor? Will we treat each other with dignity and honor? Will we treat staff with dignity and honor, et cetera, et cetera? And when you establish the right culture, then it trickles down onto staff and beyond. But as you probably can know from just watching in some other cities, when the culture isn't right at the top, it will inevitably flow downhill and poison everything else. And for me as a leader, I think a lot about what is the impact of the decision I'm making on the culture of the teams I lead. And, I try never to make a decision that I think is going to adversely affect the culture. And if I have to, I want to really make sure I've got a good reason to. So, okay, enough of that talk. Here's what I want you to do. Pair up, and we may just do a triad here, but I think, and same here. Let's do the three of you, the two of you, and the two of you. And what I want you to do, and staff, y'all can talk it around the table, talk about for just a minute, which one of these, relational, operational, system, strategic, which one is your strongest? What are you the best at? And then number two, talk about which one is what I call your growth edge. I'm not calling it your weakness, but it's an area where, hey, I need to grow on this one to be most effective. Okay? So we've all got something that we're best at. And maybe you say you're the best at all of them, but maybe your neighbor might not say that. But what are you best at, and then what's your growth edge? Okay? So take 5 minutes or so, talk about that, and then I want to hear back from you.
Is this individually, or we're talking about the city?
No, about you individually.
Okay.
Yeah, this is you individually part of it. Great question. Okay, talk it up. We'll hear back from you in about 7-8 minutes. All right, let's hear back from you, council, and kind of just get a feel for things. I talked to Lynn and Shane first, and they agreed to be confessional first, so we're going to let them talk.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, all right. So what was your strong suit?
Operational and systems is mine. I'm not great with customer service and relations and sales, and I made the comment that I hire people to do that for. And strategic is where I need to push into.
Okay, you need to push into that strategic, yeah. Which that's no matter how good of a manager you are, and all of you have to be good managers, or you couldn't win an election in Abilene. But in this capacity, you're not the managers, right? You got to pull up and be board members because you've got managers that you're paying. All right, let's give over to this group, this triad. What'd y'all say?
I'm probably most oriented strategically.
Okay.
I had a hard time with the others, or probably the growth area that I think the gifts can be sometimes the greatest hindrance. And so maybe because I am so forward thinking or big picture, it inhibits me sometimes to have a little bit of the hard conversations operationally.
Yeah.
So that might be where I would land.
I can relate to that from my own self. And when we talk about reputational drivers in a minute, I want to tell a story to remind me of that. So, all right, Miguel.
I feel like I'm more of a systems guy.
Okay.
I love understanding how things work, and you're going to go somewhere, you got to know what the inputs are first, And I know just city-wise, I know you have all these ideas and you have this vision for where you want things to go, but operationally, if you don't understand where we currently are, and you have to build steps to get there.
Yeah.
If you kind of don't know where we are, it's kind of hard to set goals that you don't know where exactly where you are.
Right. Yeah. You got to analyze it first. Sure. Okay. Stanley.
Well, I landed on relational.
Okay.
Because my job, I deal with professionals, work with me a lot, so they have their own input, they have their own ideas, they have their own way of doing things, and I kind of let them do that because that's what they're trying to do. And a lot of what my job is the, what does the staff need, what does the council need, and I try to provide that.
Okay. All right. Very good. How about these guys?
You want to take it?
I'll take it. I'm going to talk about Blaze and myself because he's extremely strategic and I'm extremely operational.
Okay.
I'm black and white. Blaze is the one that's always thinking, not repercussions, but what about the future? What is this going to impact? And so that really kind of takes care of our systems being right in the middle. We're not polar opposites, but I think what it does is it brings wonderful conversation from what is black and white and what can be or what is going to happen between that. And so on top of that, it's extremely important with our relations. We both are very involved in the community, and to have those relations. And I think this actually puts us in a good mix on our systems. But I think my weakness is I need to be moving toward more strategic outlook.
Mhm. All right, very good, very good. Blaze, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think we were right on the same page. I think overall, if you were to say, as a council, where we at, I think we're, we're, I would say, top end of operational into systems. I feel like every one of us is really good on the relational side. What I'm excited about this is, especially with the data centers and the massive, as he said, repercussions and consequences that this is bringing on our community, not just the one data center, but all the accompanying data centers moving into our region. I think where we're really going to benefit today is that strategic vision of going, what do we look like in 5 or 10 years?
Right.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, I love that. You're doing this at the exact right time, for sure. And there'll be some times today when I may ask you a question. Okay, is that strategic or is that operational? Because if it's strategic, let's talk about it. But if it's operational, let's write it down here. So it may be a good idea. We'll refer it to the staff. But we want to spend our time really at the strategic level. All right, we won't hear from all the tables, but let's hear from the CMO over here. Where were our strengths and where are the growth edges here?
Well, we are very well balanced, actually. Each one of us felt like we had a different strength and honestly different growth edges too. So I thought that was pretty interesting that we are uniquely covering the entire pyramid.
Ah, there you go. All right. That's a great team, huh? Yeah. It's so important to, one of my favorite authors was Max Dupree. And Max Dupree was the CEO of Herman Miller Furniture Company. So made office furniture, really, and was a great author. And wrote several books, but the best one was Leadership is an Art. And in it, he has this great phrase that I repeat all the time. You have to abandon yourself to the strength of others. You have to abandon yourself to the strength of others. So you got to make sure that your growth edge isn't a fatal flaw, but you don't have to spend all your time trying to make your weakness your strength. Just make sure it's not a fatal flaw. But lean on others for their strength, and you can get a lot done. And it's the old saying, you can get people can get a lot accomplished if you don't care who gets credit for it. And so I think that's a really important thing. Okay.
Mike.
Yes.
Do you want to ask Lynn?
Well, thanks, Shane.
Lynn wanted to talk.
I said no. I thought I made it. Thanks. Appreciate that. I'm more operational in systems and less good at relational. I tend to see numbers and plans and procedures and things like that, and I'm really good at quantifying the effect that has on people.
Ah, okay.
He's not strong-headed.
You misspelled success on the agenda.
I always say I'm providing job security for others that come behind me. That's good. All right. So what we want to do now, let's move into start thinking about the future. And we could cut this short and just say, well, let's just list our priorities and get it done and go home. But you want to create a robust plan that can sustain you over a period of time. And so I found that the way to do that is to come at it from a few different angles. And one of those angles is what we call reputational drivers. And this is not a discussion on what you are right now. Not looking for, affirmation or indictment. But what I'm looking for is, like Blaze was talking about, 5 years, 10 years from now, what do you want to be known for as a council and an organization and a community? Okay, so, so I'm going to go my story Travis reminded me of. I grew up, my uncle was a mentor before we used the word mentors. He was a coach in a football, a teacher in the school system that he graduated from and that I graduated from. So from the time I was 3 years old, he nurtured all this love for sports. And one of those things that I got to hear about were different coaches and sometimes players that had some kind of notoriety. One of those was Bum Phillips, retired or now past head football coach for the Houston Oilers, and then his son, Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips has probably forgotten more about football than the rest of us will ever know. I'll tell you, he grew up in the right way. But he wanted the reputation, because he saw his dad being that way, of being a player's coach. He loved players. And if you remember, when he was at the Dallas Cowboys, it was great at first. But the struggle that Wade had, was putting into place systems that would hold people accountable. And eventually, that cost him. And it's just an illustration of what you said. Your greatest strength can become what? Your greatest weakness. Yeah. So when we talk about reputational drivers, we want to be known for some things, but we don't want to be handcuffed by those things too. So here's what I'd like you to do. Think we're going to put you back into triads, and I want you to think about and talk about what are some of the reputational drivers you want to be known for on the council, organizationally, community-wise. What's important to you when people think about this city, this organization, this board that they say is true about you? Okay? Questions for me before you start talking? And then I'm gonna ask you to write them down. I'll put them on the flip chart here in a second when you start calling them out. And then we're gonna have a little open discussion on what are our top ones. So just because it makes that list, not necessarily is it gonna be our list. Okay? All right. Ready? Go. And staff, you can do the same thing. We'll hear from y'all too on this. All right. Let's hear back from you. And here's what I want you to do. Look at your list and think, what are my top 2 clearest or most urgent reputational drivers? We'll eventually get them all up there, but so that we have time for everybody to share, let's give me 2 of your best to begin with. And Miguel, we'll start with you. And you and Travis talked.
Any of them?
Yeah, your top 2. Like, okay, if I could only have 2, these are the most clearest or urgent to me.
For council, I would say clear vision.
Okay. Very good. What else?
Community-wise, I would say, kind of in the broadest sense, I guess to sum it up would be loves their neighbor, takes care of one another.
Okay. Very good. All right. Let's move on. Let's do this group. Give me 2.
You want to use your big word? Your big phrase?
Well, on council, I'm going to call it diverse unification.
Ooh, I like that.
That was not mine. That was his.
Which is a lot of different types of input, forethought input, but we all come together as a council unified when we make that final decision.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know that I've ever heard that put together just like that, but it's great.
Well, that's that Gustine education.
It's perfect. All right, give me one more.
For organization, which I kind of considered staff, responsiveness. I feel like we are already really good at responsiveness, and I feel like that's something that we can always be better at. I don't know which city's number 1, but I'd love for us to be number 1. But I feel like that's something that, if I'm incredibly proud of staff, it's about responsiveness, not just to council members, but to issues in the community. I feel like that's where we're really doing well, and reputation-wise, that's what I love.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a high aspiration, and certainly what you want. And you guys got a great chance, I think, of being the second best city in the world. But Grapevine, where I live, is the greatest city in the world. Like, it's hands down. Like, there's no other option.
Where is that again?
I don't know why I never get invited back to another city when I say that. Anyway. All right, that's very good. We'll come back to you and get you more. But Lynn and Shane, give me your top 2 that's not up there already.
For me, and this is, there are several components to the one really, but I want us to be known for a common sense economic development policy.
Okay.
that not only creates a low regulatory environment for businesses to grow, but that we adopt a policy of allowing the infrastructure to keep up with the growth so we don't get behind the eight ball, right? And so that's infrastructure, public safety, all those things that we bring, that as the free market takes control, I'm a free market believer, right? As the free market fills the gaps and does the things that it does, it will take care of housing, it'll take, all those things will get taken care of by the market. It's our responsibility to make sure that our infrastructure, our public safety, all those things keep up with the growth, and that we can sustain it and we don't get behind.
Yeah, I love that. I love it makes very clear. It's kind of like diversity unification, common sense.
Yeah.
We need it. What is it that saying?
Our regulatory,
common sense is not that common.
Our regulatory environment should be as low as possible, but maintain safety. Where
Yeah, has to be there.
Businesses can afford to invest in the community.
Yeah. Okay. Give me another one between the two of you.
The other one, one of them that I had that's not already up here is I'd like us as a community be seen as a magnet for professionals. Data center, the next lab with energy, also with healthcare, is that professionals are coming to Abilene that are engaged with and involved with professional development that benefits not only the city but the state and the country and the world.
Yeah, that's good.
Through their growth.
I love that. That's excellent. All right, let's hear from this group, and then we'll come back around and see what else you might have. What do you got for us,
So the
Noel?
top two ones were exceptional service
Okay.
and adaptive. And adaptive in the context of, similar to responsiveness, but adapting to the external conditions that impact us across the pyramid. Things change. We have 5 generations in the workforce, for example. That's a relational context piece for adaptive. There's systems that need to be refined over time. You mentioned that earlier. Same thing to strategy. So adaptive kind of cuts across all the pyramid.
Yeah.
So kind of adaptive in that context.
And adaptive to changing in economy, changes in economy. Sometimes you have to push harder, and sometimes you have to pull back. So yeah, that's very good. All right. Let's go back the other way. We'll go back to Shane and Lynn. What else do you have that's really important that you don't have up here?
Well, it's not explicitly, it may be included in common sense, but I wrote fiscally responsible.
Okay.
From the council perspective.
Mayor or Blaise? Anything else you have that you said, well, it's not really up there?
On the organizational side, it's we have a good organizational setup, but we want to make sure that our departments are working as a city of one.
Okay.
Not in separate compartments.
Okay. Yep. I'm going to put in sync.
Well, it's a bigger word for me.
But that's what you're that's what you're talking about, right? There's got to be unity.
I would add that I want us to be an attractive employer.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to make it look better in a little bit, but I want to get it down for now. All right. How about over here? What else did you say or you think is really important that's not up there at all?
One that kind of fits, like you could throw this in any category, but we kind of talked about being able to listen. And, from across all the layers there, kind of falls into the response.
Would that, okay, I'm going to put it in parentheses, but that's certainly true. Certainly true. Okay, anything else? Let's ask staff. Anything that we'll just start kind of working away. Anything that y'all talked about that's not in some way reflected up on this list?
You're not going to get in trouble.
For community, the biggest thing was just focusing on high quality of life. Do we have a built environment that is conducive to attracting those families where they want to be here and they can be healthy and they can be active? So a community of choices.
Yeah, very good. All right, how about this table?
Similar, we had responsive. We had responsible. I think we were also thinking fiscally and what we have to manage, and reliable. we like 2 hours.
Yeah, well, that's, we
3 hours.
we tell facilitators, some of y'all may know that my associate, Raina Driscoll, used to live in Abilene and lived down the street from Shane. And she's great. She lives up in the Gainesville area now. But when we talk about facilitators that work for us, that come and we say they have to be 3 things. They have to be responsive, reliable, and then this is one you'll laugh at, but you know, you understand. They have to be relaxing. So if we're nervous the whole time, like, is he going to do it? Is he not going to do it? We don't want to work with them, right? So I mean, you can be responsible, but we're not sure if you're going to be responsible. That's not good enough. You got to be responsive, you got to be reliable, and you got to put us at ease. So, all right, how about this table? What would you add to this list that's not up there already?
I'm not sure the right words, but trust, faith, honesty, and transparency. That if both council down and citizens up, that staff is working as hard as they can to do the right thing in the direction of council, and sometimes it's not the answer they want to hear, but it's coming from a good heart in a good place and trying to adhere to the strategy.
Yeah, so something along the lines of sort of the ability to work together, you know, right? The organization works well, staff and elected officials work well together.
I think it's more the faith in that.
Okay.
That is that is truly what's happening. And the second one I would throw out is a lot about like what Annette said was quality of life. And while it's important to be physically responsible, we also have to be looking towards what we want to be and how we want to get there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, last group. Give us one that's important to you that's maybe not up there, or highlight one that already is.
So I kind of took what Leslie was saying. It's one of the things that I had written down too, but I think to summarize it a little bit better, in my opinion, is high integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Just an assurance of high integrity.
I want to put it right there with it. Okay, very good. All right.
You forgot remove escalator, Don. from the airport. Is that on there? Remove the escalator.
Oh, no. Lynn, it can be a singular priority, Lynn. It has to be.
All right. Let's take about a 10-minute break and come back in 10 minutes, and we're going to change gears, and we're going to talk then about what are the pressing problems that a good strategic vision / plan has to address. So what are the needs? We're kind of thinking outside of ourselves, thinking about others. What do we got to address? So good work, 10 minutes. We'll be back at it in just a few minutes.
Before we break real quick, I want to thank staff for this setup. I know Mari and her bunch really got creative in here, and I forgot to mention that at first, but we have a great staff, and I always want to compliment them on a job well done. Very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, looks good. Very good. Good job. Yay. All right. Be back in 10 minutes, and we'll start again. Okay. So I'm going to change this up a little bit on the council, just so you get a chance to visit with somebody else. So I'm going to put you in 2 groups of 3. And so I'm going to just go around, number you 1 and 2. We'll put our 1s here, put our 2s kind of by the flag, and there'll be 3 of you in each group. So Travis, you're number 1, man. Of course. No offense, Miguel, but
What a loser.
I know.
you're almost number 1.
2?
1, 2.
Please let me be 1.
2, Mayor. 1, then, of course, 2. All right? All right. Lynn, your group, 1's over by the flag.
Okay.
2's back over here. And here's what I want you to talk about. Pressing needs. And I'm not just talking about, well, we got to keep the lights on, we got to make sure everything's operational. I want you to talk about what makes you weep, pound the table, and say, we have to do something about this. As we're looking at 5, 10 years from now, this is what wakes you up in a cold sweat. It's what makes you not able to go to bed. It's what you get passionate about. And people have to say, okay, I got it, that's enough. What really matters? So, we don't want to be negative, but we got to solve problems. Good strategic plans should solve problems. And what you got to do is look at what are the problems that got to be solved and what are some problems we anticipate that we need to address. We may not get all those right, but we gotta start thinking about it, okay? So take your chairs, you can sit down, give you some time. This is one of the most substantive discussions you have, is this one right here. And CMO will leave y'all together. And tables, y'all still good with each other? Anybody mad and want to enter the transfer portal yet? All right, same table. All right, off we go. 10 minutes. Okay, council, are you ready or do you need some more time? You're good? You guys good over here? Okay, let's start with you. Y'all can just stay in your triads if you will for now. It'll help me. Let's start with you. Give me two of them. We're going to get them up there, and then we'll kind of have a little discussion on them.
Yeah, top two problems, I would say housing, number one, and water.
Okay. Very good. Let's go to here. Give me a couple. What else do you have? Anything else that's really pressing?
In my opinion, it's implications for cities from what the state passes down to us, like mandates, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll add streets to that too.
Okay.
Talk about that till everybody's tired again about it.
It's not your turn and you're taking away.
I got it on there just so I won't forget it. What else would you have, Mayor, for your group?
The Fireman's Retirement Fund.
Okay. Okay, and CMO, what do you have that's not up there?
Michael, do you want to give ours?
Mine was sustainable succession planning, and the ability to hire quality professional staff based on our current pay plan.
Yeah, that's, obviously that's one of the things that as your growth comes, there's going to be stress on how you continue to attract and retain high quality employees.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go around the room. Let's get them up there and we'll have a little discussion on them. What would you guys have? We'll start with y'all's table. Give me one that's not up there.
They took ours.
Okay?
That's what we came up with.
Okay. How about this table? What do you have that's maybe not up here already?
Yeah, we love water. We like when water's on top of this. I guess the two that stood out at our group, one was actually this conversation, a clear vision.
Okay.
And why we're doing the things that we need to do, but coupled with that was maybe a willingness or even an eagerness for change or adaptation. So seeing things not being the way that they should be and just living in a kind of stagnant environment versus innovating and improving.
Okay. Innovation. Yeah. All right. How about this table?
We all agreed number one as far as compensation, retaining, attracting workforce, and the need for that. And on my own soapbox, I feel communications with the community, external and internal. I think especially after cyber attack, there was things there exposed that we would like to do better. So, and how that supports sort of the internal culture and retaining employees within that too.
It's an ironic thing, isn't it? We have more tools for communication than ever before, and communication is more complex than ever before, right? It's going to be a challenge. And, here's the thing. I don't know how good or bad you feel like you are at communication, but here's something I've come to observe. If you have trouble with communication, if it's a challenge, congratulations. It means you're alive. It means you're doing something. You're doing a lot of somethings. The only people that don't have to worry about communication are in the cemetery. They don't have anything to communicate. They're not doing anything. And there are some cities like that too, but you're not one of them. So I'm not saying you shouldn't make it a priority, be good at it, excel at it, but I would also say don't beat yourself up about it. And don't beat other people up about it either, okay? Because it just means you're alive and you're doing something, and that's the challenge of it. All right, last group. What else would you add to this?
You covered all of ours, I think, but we might add something about a 5-year capital program.
Okay. 5-year capital improvement. Okay, council, let's get you to kind of.
I would add one more. Child care is one thing that I hear as we grow. That is a major complaint that I hear about from our residents. The high cost of child care, or the lack of.
Yeah.
Mike, could I add one?
Sure.
I can't not add the challenge of funding being enough to sustain an aging infrastructure, a growing workforce. So challenges with funding, and I could also relate that to HB2 and the state limitations.
Yeah, we're struggling with it for sure. I'm just gonna, I know it looks like scratching, but I'll be able to read it. All right, so let's we've got a little bit of time. I'm going to put the timer on it so that we don't go over. But let's talk about it for a few minutes, council. As you're thinking about this list, things you want to address in your strategic plan, what are your thoughts? Let's take them kind of one at a time for a little bit. Housing, what are you doing? Let's do it this way. What do you feel like is working? What do you feel like is not working? So let's take it that way. What's working in the housing area, and what's not working that we need to rethink a little bit?
I think it's important to point out that we don't build houses.
Right.
Right. And so we have to incentivize the private sector with programs like Rebuild ABI, if you don't know about that.
But I do know about it.
That coupled with, again, a low but safe regulatory environment where our zoning ordinances and things like that allow for the free market to respond to the housing demand. We can't have the growth rate crippled by regulation, right? It's got to be safe, but we've got to let people respond quickly, and then the market respond quickly, because the pressures on it are happening quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If the pressures are slow, then the market can respond slower, but right now we have a lot of pressure on our local housing market, both rental, Airbnb, hotel market, all those things. We've got to have a system, and I think we largely do. There's always ways to improve, but we've got to allow the free market to respond as quickly as the pressure would like, or roughly speaking.
Okay. All right. Very good. Somebody else.
I think type of housing is also kind of the question where over 5-10 years, what do we want Abilene to look like community-wise? Is it RV parks? Is it apartments? Is it cheaper single-family homes? Is it ones that will last for 100 years without question? What the actual makeup of our housing looks like? Because right now we're in the throes of we need housing now. We don't care what it is, but there are some long-term consequences of, now we have 50,000 RV parks here. How does that, when the demand is no longer there, what do we look like as a community? So I think for council, it's walking that tightrope. We need housing, but we also have to consider long-term consequences.
Yeah, it's sort of like, to be very simplistic, some of this, more of this, not much of this, and none of this. I mean, right? Those are the kind of your categories, right? Some of this, more of this, little of this, none of this. Yeah. All right. What else, housing-wise? Just trying to get you to be thinking, because you're going to be diving deeper this afternoon on all this. So it's good to kind of get all this out on the table. Anything else you want to talk about on that?
I just want to add on housing is the desperate shortage of rentals.
Okay.
And that not only affects just this boom for our data centers, it affects us in our 5 to 6, 7 years of our B-21 bed down, which affects DIAS.
Mm-hmm.
The lack of housing for our military that will be coming in for the B-21.
So it kind of goes back to what Lynn's saying. You have to have enough regulation that things are safe, but you also have to be easy enough to work with that a lot of housing can get built. And then to your point, Blaze, you got to make sure you're saying yes to what you want and no to what you're not. You know, and that's going to have to be through zoning and ordinances. And
well, people have to realize that the pressures on the housing market right now are probably going to last for 8 to 10 years.
yeah, they're not short term,
Right?
really.
Because not only the B21 bed down, but the construction associated with the B21 is likely to last 3 to 5 years after the data center stuff is over.
Yeah.
Right? And so those pressures, while they may loosen a little, it's still going to be high.
Yeah.
You know? And I agree with Blaze about what does it look like in the end, where like we just did out off Elmdale Road, where we mandated the removal of all the mobile home, you know, all the RVs. Whenever they close up shop, they got to take all that stuff out of there and leave the infrastructure behind. You know, and that's a common sense approach to. Okay, we need it now. That's just a good way to fill the gap in the short term, but it still takes into consideration like that.
Yeah, I like what you're doing with that. Of thinking when it plateaus and maybe even declines a little bit, what do we want it to look like then? Let's keep that in mind. Nobody else is going to keep that in mind more than the 7 of you.
Student housing as well. I know the universities are struggling. The parents are struggling to find rentals for their kids, and the upperclassmen are struggling to find housing for themselves. And so that has a knock-on effect for ACU, McMurray, HSU going. Our students don't want to come here anymore because they're paying 3 times, 4 times for rentals, and so the universities are kind of paying the price too. So that's something we have to consider, and maybe working with them as well to find a solution for student housing.
Right. And so just to go back to what Lynn said, and we'll move on. Yeah, the city doesn't build houses, but housing is likely to be one of your strategic priorities of how you facilitate the housing needs that you have in the city. So, all right, let's go on. Let's talk about water. What's working well there? What's not working well there?
We have a long-term plan that we have been diligent in putting money towards and committed to continuing to follow that plan. We are pursuing funding from the Texas Water Development Board to help with the phase 1 out at the Northeast Water Treatment Plant. So there are things that we're following. One thing that we've been pursuing since before I got on the council, which was in the 2009.
78,
and it was
79.
I wasn't born. We've been trying to get a new reservoir, and we ran into some snags and resets basically under COVID because of the Corps of Engineers, and we need to get back on that because long term we need to ensure that we have sufficient water supply, not just good water treatment.
Right.
So those are some of the concerns and problems, quote unquote, that we need to be working on is pushing forward with the supply.
All right. We'll come back to these, but I'm probably got to move us on unless anybody else has something pressing to say on water.
I think the challenge is, to Shane's point, 100% agree, but I also think you have to parse that with, we have a lot of older structures, and so what does it look like to consistently respond to the needs of breakages or different things that aren't working in the same capacity? I think, Lynn, we were talking about this in terms of replacement, being a little bit more forward thinking, and what does it look like to kind of take care of the needs now instead of always responding and reacting to breakages.
Yeah.
Well, we can set ourselves up for the same situation we got into with our streets.
Yeah.
Right, where now I mean, our infrastructure is already aging on the water side, but I don't know, that we're at crisis level or anything, but if we don't start gradually replacing the older things, we're going to get behind the 8 ball just like we did with streets 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
And that may go back to what, you think about reputational drivers, that, hey, we want to be responsive to what's coming, not reactive only. All right, speaking of streets, let's move to that. I'm going to tie this one down into number 11 here, but what's working with streets and what's not working with streets?
Well, we implemented in 2017, 2018 the street maintenance fee on the utility services bill. And that put us basically from spending about $1 million a year somewhere between 10 and 12 million. The issue with that is that that street maintenance fee is a set fee. And in the 5-6 years it's been implemented, inflation has taken about 40% of that. So even though we're still collecting that money, we're only getting about 60% of the work done that we work. So we just have to know that inflation's eating up a lot of that.
Yeah. So you need to continue, you might need to find a way to address that too, right?
Right.
I'm not touching it, but I'll say that.
I think one issue we had with it years past is people would be like, well, my street never gets repaved. Someone else's street's always, first in line. And I think the Street Advisory Maintenance Board, I think it's the title.
Street Maintenance
Advisory Board has been very good about that, in that that's citizen input. Hey, my street, and there's input from residents, and their street eventually gets on, and I feel like that's been a good kind of funneling of projects, and hopefully eventually your street will be on. So I think that was a good addition the council made 7 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
That study on the streets that we did produced a pavement condition index. Right. And back then, and I think the number was 330 million of total need if we were to replace all the streets all at the same time, which is a terrible idea. But the rate of declination of the roads was outpacing our ability to rehab or replace. And I think, staff can correct me, but I think we've pretty much flattened that, right? We've stopped the curve from continuing to decline, or at least pretty close to that. And so that's one of the things I want to talk about when we get to what are we going to do with the surplus money, is pushing that curve up, where we're replacing faster than the declination is occurring. Because we've got about a 7 to 10 year window where we're going to have some surplus, right, if we budget properly, and a lot of it needs to go to that, in my opinion.
Okay. All right.
That was a very revelatory study. It kind of showed those problems.
Let's talk about this one for a minute. What are your thoughts on this, and what's working, what's not working, and
Where's Brian when you need it?
Yeah, we have a committee that's actively working on solutions and options for how we're going to figure this out, because it needs to be funded. There's no not funding it, but how we do that is very important. And so we're kind of collectively figuring out what's the best way forward to get this pension funded.
Gotcha. All right.
And at the same time, establishing a framework where we don't get in that position yet.
Yeah. Solve the problem and correct the situation for the future. Let's talk about succession planning. What are your thoughts on that one? What's working? What do you feel like's not working? What do you need to do different?
Well, I'll jump into the second part, which Michael brought up, and that's something I mentioned to you, is that we have a hard time filling positions like CDL positions, professionals that are involved with building trades for doing inspections and things like that, because it's lucrative to be out in the private sector, and we can't compete there. But we still have to have solid waste drivers, we need bus drivers, we need people doing inspections for these houses that are going to be built. They have to have the safety inspections before we can do the COs, and so those are critical needs for us to provide the services that we need to provide.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the kind of reputation you want as a city, that takes people, It's like Jimmy Johnson says in football, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmy and Joes that get it done. And so you're going to have to, as you plan, think through how do we provide succession planning so that we're not losing institutional knowledge, and how are we keeping the quality of our employees, are we retaining quality employees? Because, I can just tell you from my work with other cities, just what you said, as the job market's growing and it's attractive, you have to compete with it at levels. You may not be able to pay as much in every way, but you've got to be competitive, or else you just won't have the people. And then your city declines, and so that's a tough one for sure. Okay, we've kind of been talking about vision, communication. We've got time for just one more here. Let's talk about the funding challenges and maybe as that relates to mandates. What's working well? What's not? What are you worried about as you look on the horizon for this area? Knowing that
The elimination of property tax without a revenue replacement strategy.
that's scary.
I don't like property tax any more than anybody else does, but I hear a lot about getting rid of that or reducing it, but I don't hear, okay, here's how we're going to replace that revenue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a problem.
We hear about that every election cycle. So, I mean, on the state level, that's the, you're right. I would love to pay less property tax, but we still have to fund all these services that we provide as a city. And property tax is that element right now. So no one has come forward with an answer to how we will fund our services without property tax.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't want a 22% sales tax rate. Just telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you go buy clothes and you pay 22%, nearly a quarter more for sales tax, that's going to get people's attention. And I mean, at least one study I read said that's what it would take to replace the property tax revenue, which creates an unstable revenue stream in the city, because as the economy ebbs and flows, sales tax ebbs and flows, and so you're trying to budget off of a moving revenue stream all the time that grows and declines month over month sometimes, right? It's just not a stable way to go. But if someone come up with an idea, I'm all ears. That's great. I'd love not to pay property tax.
I know a lot of these items, these are big ticket items. And we have to strategically plan for how we're going to fund these things.
Yeah.
It's not this is streets aren't a 1 year thing, water's not a 1 year thing. These are things that are going to be continuous. And how do we plan and strategically put future council, not only just us, but in a good position to deal with these challenges as the city moves forward?
Yeah, you can't be completely governed by the urgent. You have to think also about what's the important. And that's long term. A lot of things that make sense in the immediate are very foolish in the long term. And you got to think long term, even though there will be times when people press you to think immediate. And you just, we have to resist that as leaders. For good. Okay. Anything else on this? Emily, anything you want to add on this one?
Well, certainly, and I realize it's a very volatile subject in regards to taxes and fees, but we can't do anything to solve these challenges and problems without revenues and the ability to satisfy the needs of the public, to be responsible with our infrastructure. Our emergency services are entirely funded by taxes, whether that's sales tax or property tax. So my concern is just the inaffordability for us to continue to offer what we want to have as excellent, exceptional service, high quality employees, highly trained, highly skilled, great roads. All of that comes back to a revenue stream. And so as city manager, that is what keeps me up at night, is how can we afford to continue to provide these services that the public wants and that we want to provide, and it be affordable to the public as well. Prices are going up for everyone.
Yeah. I've kind of watched a shift. When I first started doing this in 2011, almost every council you worked with said, we want, the lowest possible effective tax, whatever legally the lowest effective tax rate is, that's what we want. And a lot of places did that for a long time. But eventually, that is not necessarily the best scenario, because it kept cities from being able to provide the things you're talking about. So I've watched over the years now, I'm hearing more councils talk about, if they can lower the effective tax rate, but not maybe lowering it to the total that they could, right? Because just what you said, how do you continue to provide excellent services, great streets, et cetera, if you don't have funding? So, that's y'all's issue, not mine. I'm just observing it. That I saw early on, that seemed like everybody, that was the only argument there was. But that didn't really sustain itself all the way through. And that's not really where I think the leading edge cities are thinking. You certainly want to lower it if you can, but maybe not the entire rate. All right, let's stay in the yes.
I'm gonna touch on the 5-year capital.
Oh yes, okay, yes. Thanks, Shane.
'Cause I think that's good for us to be looking at that, because that's looking at, City Hall, the maintenance buildings, all those things, making sure that we don't let them fall into a hole of now we've got to put a bunch of money unplanned into replacing or major repairs because we didn't take care of minor needs that are just maintenance level today.
Yeah.
My old man cap back when I first got on was during the 2008, 2009 crisis, and when at that time we had an active 5-year CIP, and most often it was funding fire apparatus. And when sales tax jumped back up right after the economic crisis, then we established a fire apparatus replacement fund, which removed it from the CIP, and we were able to then focus the CIP on what you would expect it to be on.
Right.
And so, but over time, council would override planning and the zoning to the point where they were like, why are we even making recommendations? Because you're rejecting everything we're recommending and doing your own thing. And there was a whole political dynamic that came into play, and it kind of just fell by the wayside. We haven't done it in 4 or 5 years at least, probably longer than that. But I think it's important for us to not let us get in a hole with regard to our buildings and other infrastructure, and reevaluate bringing back the CIP. And it's actually in the charter we're supposed to do it. It's just we've not been doing that.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not necessarily the urgent, but it's pretty important.
It's important long term.
Yeah, for sure.
That will be urgent.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't address it, it becomes urgent, doesn't it? Okay, I want to ask you to stay in your same group, and I'm going to ask you to work now on SWOT analysis. Because now we're going to probably get moving to lunch here pretty quick, and then we're going to start thinking about what should our priorities be. But I want you first to spend some time on strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And, obviously I've heard from a lot of you, kind of got this one-time excess sales tax fund that you got to do something with. That's an opportunity. But there are other opportunities on the horizon. So spend some time talking about that. Same thing, staff. We'll hear back from you in a few minutes and go from there. She's not going to yeah, there's probably both and here soon. I'll make sure we can see what just to survive. Council, one thing I should clarify. You can think both community, like the populace, as well as the organization on this. And staff, same for you. Staff, you may think more about organization, and that's okay. But this is really a both and. All right, keep going.
You want to be the one to say Yeah, I think so.
We get to better because of these educated yeah. So we still have it's not a job. Yeah, I'm pretty passionate about it. Sure.
There's no way that our patrons can balance just inflation if they would have people once again. Manage the paperwork and also to manage all these.
Tell me your first name. No, right now.
The cost increases are much higher.
So I think
I haven't asked
I know, I'm kidding you.
So yeah, tell me.
No,
in 98,
I did suggest why we throw more money, but Lynn sounds like Lynn wants to do extra. That's what I should do extra sales tax revenue should be throwing at it. Because the guy at the street main sports, and it's not about having the ability to work for money.
well,
But you know what, that's not the street maintenance, that's stormwater, that's solid waste. I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, you know, Leslie was talking about things like, integrity, trust.
Disagree. I think the problem is we have such
But you know how we wondered what these transfers in were? You know how nobody's ever told me. And I just give it as a that's a difficult. Okay. What are our strengths outside of having? There's a whole freaking section for it. But I had to read on page, was it 61? 61, organization. Stability. And it tells you everything is, it doesn't tell you all the amounts. So my next job is to figure out where the 32 million is, because I can only come up with about 10. Which makes me think something doesn't tell my connected to that.
There's something to be it's called concussion. Good thing, but it's also and again, it's Will Smith.
You don't see it in everything else.
And look at this. This is 160 million is the highest source of revenue. And it's yes. Is this a property tax? They're complaining about the state limiting how much taxes they can charge. This makes me want to cry like her and say, how much more if you get to their house, because you can't be most people. One thing I didn't know is I used to say, yes, they're using
God's favor.
I do not think that word means. Oh, look at this. This is my favorite part of this whole budget. This is where I wish I could. So I was a stupid video. I'm just trying to get the information out. This is my favorite one. Bathroom. There's 4 or 5 bathrooms on that list. What? Greasing that pipe. I'm just kidding. Stink stuff.
I'm not going to get arrested.
Not every time. That includes 2 different bathrooms. Yes, one of them is 300,000 and one of them is 400,000. Estimated. It's like, why is that the priority all of a sudden? You're like, I can go before I go, or I can go to the gas station like every other person who needs it. I mean, you know?
So they also have a suitcase
By then, I'm just kind of.
I don't know this, but I'm saying
and happen here all the time.
All right, are we about ready, council? This group looks ready. Larry, you all right? You got this one time. Give me a couple more minutes.
Workshops, yeah, we're talking about it, but this is what it is. Just read the title.
Pay no attention to that one.
We're eating in the Oh, okay. My bad. Okay.
Well, you can,
It's not a contest.
You invited me here.
yeah, project-based learning, that's what it's that's what they're doing. We don't have to have DEI council. They can do it through everything else. Social media. And this is all about equity and diversity. It's not how this guy with freedom bonus. This guy is a smart skill. It's terrible. But this is the sort I read all through this and everything is because I'm veterans. Should have had some help beforehand, so it wasn't like I just started here. It was explained to me that I was keeping a conversation, but he was basically saying there's literacy and everything. Cultural literacy, reading literacy. He wants to create a scientist, and guess what? That very thing. They're not worried about academics. Teachers know what they're instructing. It's a student who leads and decides what they're going to learn. There's a reason why they're called children. Anyway, that's the one. But again, I'm just saying, thankfully God's given me the time and space to do it, so I'm starting to connect dots, and I will let them know. That's all I'm like, I let them know. What you're up to. By pushing their stupid stuff. It's what's destroying it. And this is way extreme. Those books, they're kept in the ground. Basically, we're a lady named Tammy Phil. I'm just kidding.
Okay, let me call us together. And we'll kind of get these up here. Let's take strengths, go all the way around, and then weaknesses go all the way around, etc. So we'll start over here with the mayor's group. What's a couple of give me 2 strengths that you came up with?
One is growth, whether it's natural or work-wise. It's just we have growth.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, what's another one?
I've put down from the internal perspective the relationship that the council members have with regard to healthy discussions, healthy disagreements. But then at the end of the day, we're working as a team to make things better for the city of Abilene, even if we're not in the majority on the decision.
That's really important. You want to have robust dialogue. You can disagree without being disagreeable, right? And it's crucial.
Council love.
All right, let's get a couple of strengths from this group. What's some other strengths you added?
We put pretty similar to the second one there, but just our local economy in general right now. There's a lot of momentum coming into Abilene.
Yeah, you have momentum. That's for sure.
I think we've got a pretty strong and stable staff. I know Emily's new, but it only, I feel like it took her a month or 2 to kind of get up to speed. I feel like we may have retirements and whatnot, but in general, our staff is very structured department-wise, and it's a very stable, from at least my perspective, a very stable and strong staff.
Okay.
So that's a strength.
Yeah, very good for sure. All right, what's a couple of strengths from this group here?
Well, we were going to say the council, but that one's already been taken. We were going to say the staff, but that one's been taken. We would like to bring to the table the community support. We feel like that Abilene is blessed with a highly engaged and supportive community, and not just with words, but with action and with money as well. The number of private investment projects that we have benefited from local philanthropy.
It's definitely a community, for sure. All right, let's get around the tables here. Give me a strength from that table.
Don't say leadership. Y'all are all waiting to talk.
Plant leadership. I mean, one of the things we had was just a solid organization, which I think has already kind of been the these days.
Okay.
Solid, strong organization.
All right. Anything else?
Diverse economy too.
So I'm gonna go back to the economy. There's diverse stuff. All right, this table. Well, give me a strength that's not up there already.
It's not up there already. The only other one that we really kind of talked about was that we have a good community support of like the military base, our police, and our fire. You hear about a lot of cities that have problems with their those agencies or those types of agencies, but our community is very supportive.
Okay. Very good. All right, how about this table right here? What's a strength?
One we've got that has been mentioned is our geographic location.
Yes, I thought about that too. Location. It's excellent. All right, last table.
Ours are pretty much in line with what's already on the board. Between the 4 of us, we pretty much came up with what
What's been said?
Honestly.
That's good alignment. That's good. All right, let's go back here. Let's talk about weaknesses. What's a couple of weaknesses that you have?
Competitive wages for staff.
Yeah. All right, what's another one out of that group?
Aging infrastructure.
Wow. Well. Okay. This group.
We
What?
put the infrastructure piece, but we also put the what Shane mentioned earlier, CIP plan, like long-term thinking and lack of CIP. Thank you.
Yeah, I put need CIP plan. Yeah. Okay. Emily, y'all's group.
Are we able to be as agile as we need to be?
Okay.
Considering the times and bureaucracy generally moves slowly. It's intended to in some regards, but do we have the agility that we need to address the current conditions?
Yeah, that's the tension. It's kind of like what Lynn's talking about, the regulatory environment. Keep it light, but it's got to be safe. You got to be agile, but you don't want to make mistakes. So there's a tension there. And I would say the healthy relationships that you see between council and staff are your best asset for addressing that, right? Because when you don't have good relationships, everything's harder, you know? And when you have good, healthy relationships, when you got a problem, you can say, well, let's talk it out. You know, is it a little more this way or a little more that way? And not everything becomes, a referendum on loyalty, so to speak. All right, anything else? Weakness from this group?
Not that hasn't already been said.
Okay. How about in the corner pocket?
You're our spokesperson.
The deferred maintenance.
Okay. That's a little bit of the CIP plan, right?
Yeah, we've already kind of talked about that.
Go ahead and check it there.
And then also to what has already brought up too is hiring and retaining younger staff.
Okay. Retaining staff. All right. How about here?
So we had some robust discussion on this one. What I summarized it as was not having a properly informed populace. So what I mean by that is more along the lines of sometimes there's things that we as staff know will be or could be a benefit to the community, but informing the community of why it would be a benefit, sometimes we have a hard time communicating that. The populace may not completely understand the reason why we think that this structure needs to be built, or this thing needs to go away so that we can build a new thing for you, and the advantages of that new thing for the community. Sometimes we as a community don't see that until it's built.
Yeah. Well, speaking as a resident, it doesn't work in local government really. We live under a rock. I mean, you know, like we're not paying attention until something gets our attention. We're like, what? You know, so that's a challenge I'll have for sure. All right, let's go to this group. What's a weakness?
Also infrastructure, aging infrastructure.
Okay. All right. Last group.
One thing that hasn't been said is maybe just resistance to change. There's lots of not in my backyard mentality. We all want things, but we don't want it close to us.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's going to be a challenge for council and levels of staff of, you know, being able to say, we heard some things, transparency, strong ethics, great integrity, which sometimes means sitting across the table and saying, yes, it's going to go here. And we want to make it as good for you as we can and be as accommodating as we can, but we're not going to lie, you know, and we have to make these decisions. What good are we going to do? For what group? At what price? What cost? You know, we have a guy that works for us, Will Hampton. He used to be on staff at Round Rock. He was their communications director, and I just have incredible respect for Will because, you know, Round Rock went through all that growth, and they had a very good system that engaged the public, informed the public, let them participate, sometimes made changes according to what public was saying to accommodate, but still moved things forward. And that might be a good, they're still doing that kind of stuff. I don't know if you know Brooks there, but it's a great, great city. And Will's with us. He's super at this. Okay. Let's go to this group first. No offense. opportunities. What are the big opportunities over here?
I think two came to mind for me. One, Lakeport Phantom, turning that into, or capitalizing on that within city limits, boat ramps, kind of adding in revenue there. And then two, leveraging AI, using it towards cost comparisons and to be more competitive. Just by way of example, I'm not too good with AI, ChatGPT and whatnot, but I had a buddy, I was talking to a buddy, and he is very good, and he ran the numbers, compared San Angelo, Midland, Odessa, and Abilene on how much are we paying per mile on streets. And, broke down into levels and all this kind of stuff, but in general, we're actually better, we're paying less per mile to pave than San Angelo or Midland. And also a little thing that it kept saying was Abilene is much more transparent on its street costs than those other cities are, which was nice to hear that we're, out of those three, we're more transparent, and so I was able to really crunch the numbers. But that was something that I thought, this is, you always hear leveraging AI. From a council perspective, I'm not a contractor. I don't know what it costs to, put this pipe, for 10 miles, or how much these vehicles should cost, or this structure should cost, or whatever. And so making sure that we're being competitive in all these aspects, I think that's where AI can really help us. So how much is Dallas paying? How much is San Angelo paying for that? And then we can leverage that out with the bidders of going, hey, they're paying 20% less. Why are you charging us, 20% more?
I mean, the use of AI is going to be a big part of the future.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better. It makes mistakes, different things, but it's going to get better. So, at some point, we're probably even getting there. If we don't use it, we're behind.
Yeah. Or paying more for products.
Yeah. All right.
I want to add something.
Okay.
And they may be about to say it, but what's happening in our town for the next decade is probably not going to occur for another 2 or 3 generations. And so we have an opportunity to steward that well, to make a pretty significant difference in the future of our community if we handle it right, because it's probably not going to come around again for a while. This way, right? At this speed. It might. I mean, I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but it's just not very likely that we experience this kind of growth this fast for this amount of time for a long period of time.
It's a once in a generation opportunity, and I think you have to ask this question, thinking about all the data center. Let's check the data center. I know there's more, but what does this make possible for Abilene? There's some things that are going to be possible on the tail end of this, or even as it goes, that were not possible before. And so that is, you're right. It's a once in a generation opportunity. All right, let's go over here. What do you got for us, Miguel?
Yeah, I know we have 3 universities. Cisco's growing. There's a lot of education within this town, and I know young professionals, kids just going out of school. When I got out of school, there's a big pressure for you to go to Dallas and go to these bigger cities. I think we're entering a new paradigm where there's a lot more younger professionals seeking jobs in Abilene. DCOA is bringing in all these new jobs. We're developing rapidly. Our quality of life just keeps going up and up and up. And I think we have a big opportunity to capitalize on retaining a lot more people in Abilene after they get their education.
Yeah, for young adults. I'm saying a lot of the job market for young adults is really on the rise, and that speaks, good things for the future of the city, for sure. And not that hasn't been before, but it's probably more so now than ever before. All right, let's go to this group. What opportunities did y'all talk about? I got it?
Well, I think to Councilmember Beer's point, we talked about kind of the interesting juxtaposition between the mandates of SB2 and this unprecedented event that we're having on the growth side, but we can't fully capture the opportunity because now we're handicapped by SB2. So it kind of ties into different threads, educating the populace, running the numbers, telling the story about, there is this legislative environment that's making it a little bit more mechanically challenging to capture the value but still doing the homework of at least going through the thought exercise of what options does the council have to have more short-term, but also long-term sustained value over the long term from this kind of flash in the pan economic one-off opportunity. It doesn't have to just slip through our hands like water. There is capturing that can occur, but it's how do you best do that policy-wise?
That's a great comment. And right after lunch, we'll kind of do an exercise where we look and say, what does incredible success look like? And part of it's telling your story in such a compelling way that it overcomes those challenges. So, okay, excellent. Let's get opportunities go this way this time. What's an opportunity you guys see that we don't have up there yet?
We said development planning opportunities along I-20 and Loop 322.
Okay. I-20 and 322?
Loop 322.
Okay. Very good. How about here?
We talked sort of quality of life and how there's some good mid-range quality of life things existing, traffic, accessibility, but we're kind of, not to say a lack, but we're lacking sort of those crown jewels, but there's a lot of potential. I think like what Councilman Reagan was saying about, is it Lake Fort Fannin? Is it, there's a lot of great things we could build on to really be sparkly things for us.
Yeah, you're probably going to attract some amenities from the private sector that you haven't had before, and that'll be fun. Yeah? All right. Right here. What's an opportunity that we don't have up here already?
Most of what we talked about is already up there. The only thing that we really talked more about was just the opportunity of that potential increase in fees that we could fund opportunities that we don't normally fund in a typical budget, just like the one-off programs that we could maybe accomplish
Okay.
with the extra revenue that wasn't anticipated.
Very good. And last but not least, what do you guys have over there?
Really, there's nothing new. We talked about the AI data center and DICE's growth as well, the opportunities of that. Both of those growing. Just with new professions coming into town, new services coming into town.
Okay. All right, last round. Let's start here. Threats. What's a threat?
We put cybersecurity.
Too soon.
Tried to say it was
Too soon, yeah. Oh.
Started with it.
It's always a threat.
Yeah, it is.
Always.
We have staff retention. Yeah, institutional knowledge, staff retention.
Okay, yeah. Anything else?
That's all we got, yeah.
Okay. Mayor's group.
Water demands.
Water demands, yeah. Anything else?
Unstaffed services, I mean, that's kind of already up there. So.
Yeah, yeah. All right. How about CMO?
Cost escalation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's start with you guys. What's the threat you talked about?
State limitations, legislative limitations.
I was going to put state legislature. No offense if you're in there. How about here?
We talked about, with the advantage of the growth that Abilene has, just making sure that we have proper planning along with that growth.
Yeah. I was going to put need for proper planning. For sure. All right. How about here?
We mentioned target potential, just safety-wise, as far as data centers, just earnings out there in the world.
Yeah. You got a target on your back. Let's put it that way. Last but not least.
Property tax, if it's eliminated, it's more than half of the budget that we have. So how are we going to mitigate that elimination if it happens?
Yeah, I just put that under state legislature because I mean, let's hope not, but it's a real thing. So okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break, get your lunch, come back. We'll just have you some time to talk and so forth, and then we'll as I can kind of see everybody's wrapping up with lunch, we'll reconvene and get going again. Any last words before we break for lunch? We're going to eat in here. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Good work. Good work. Nobody fell asleep, so it's good. And let's eat. Yeah. Let's eat. All right. Just as we're kind of getting ourselves going, I did a little run at the synthesis, and I'm glad to wordsmith this a little bit more. But with the reputational drivers, it seemed to me this was a pretty easy kind of come to 10. And I want to just, if there's any one of these, council, you're like, no, absolutely, don't say it like that. I want to know now so I can be aware of correction. So, clear vision. We want to be known as a council with a clear vision. We want to know as a city that cares for one another. A council where we have diversified unification. As an organization that we're responsive, reliable, and adaptive. Number 5, that we have common sense economic development policy, I like the word policy, that allows infrastructure to keep pace. I think that's what I heard. 6, I changed this up a little bit, but hopefully it's okay. High quality of life with attractive amenities. Be careful in saying what kind of person does you want to attract. You know, I don't want to say it's attractive because we've got amenities. Number 7, exceptional customer service, operational excellence, and being an employer of choice. 9, fiscal responsibility. And just so y'all know, I know how to use big words. Impeccable integrity. I don't know if I spelled it right. Does that kind of grab it? Did I miss anything that was really crucial to you from your list? All right, so I'm going to be I'll be kind of doing that with all of these, the pressing needs and the SWOT analysis. So then, if it needs to be wordsmithed after that, you know, I'll get the staff to help me with that. So, okay, now we're going to change gears, and now we're going to integrate you, council, with the staff for a little bit for this next exercise. And city manager's office, you can kind of go where you want to at different tables. So I'm going to put, let's say, there's 6 of you, right? And there's 4 tables, so, you know, make sure you can go to whatever table you want, but make sure there's not more than 2 of you at a table. And here's what we're going to do. As a table, we're going to work on this topic. I want you to think about what if Abilene was more successful than we could possibly imagine, even in our wildest dreams. And the way I want you to get at this is I'm going to give each table a piece of newsprint and a marker. And I'm going to ask you to imagine that, let's say this is 2026, so let's call it 2040. It's 2040. And Texas Monthly is doing a cover story on the amazing Abilene, Texas. What's happened over the last almost 15 years? And what I want you to do is think, what would that story be?
Are we going to say what they're going to print or the truth?
That's true.
I can't comment.
Haven't been there. So.
Yeah. So we want you to maybe they haven't done a magazine print in a long time, but they're doing a special one in 2040 because the amazing story of Abilene. What would that story be? Give us some headlines. Give us what some of the topics would be. Maybe give us a quote or 2 that would happen. Why would they do a story about you because you were so successful? What would make you successful? And I want you to think through some of the things we've talked about already, some of the pressing problems that you addressed, some of the opportunities that you capitalized on, some of the strength that you built on, so forth and so on. So you can kind of draw on stuff that you've done already and maybe some things that you haven't, okay? But you can draw, you can use symbols, I'm going to do this. You can write sentences, but not paragraphs, okay? Don't write me a story. Give me some headlines and a sentence and a quote and some symbols and some pictures and have some fun with it. And now, this is what a colleague of mine calls total blue sky. You know, there's no rain in this story. Nothing goes wrong. You're more successful than you could possibly dream of. Okay, even in your wildest dreams. All right, any questions for me? So each council member, I want you to go to a table. Staff, y'all stay there. Your chance to move missed for this time. And CMO, you guys go wherever you want to. No more than 2 council members at a table. Some table will only have 1, but we can't have more than 2 at any table. Okay, questions for me? All right, go, and I'll get you your newsprint as you get started talking about it. All right, you ready? All right. Y'all want to go first?
Oh, we do.
Well, the mayor said he wants to go first, so he's going. Oh, Glenn. Okay, so let's put our sheets on that screen over there so we can read them. Everybody, it won't hurt those. They should. Let's see.
We had a plan.
It's 6. Okay. All right. Now let's. Are you the spokesperson, Lynn?
Sure.
All right. Talk us through it, Lynn.
All right. I had a grand finale planned, but we're going to start with Blake Reagan. Blake Reagan asked only one more question.
Yeah, right.
Highest paid and highest paid and happiest city employees in the state of Texas on a waiting list.
Whoa. Oh.
The highest capacity of energy, including nuclear, solar, wind, and fossil fuels in the world. That's pretty sweet. Travel hub for the Southwest, surpassing Denver. Surpassed the Metroplex in conventions and tourism. Hosting the National Finals Rodeo and becoming the national hub for Western heritage. The cultural hub of the Southwest for museums and interactive history. ACU wins the national championship.
Hey, Indiana won it. I mean, come on. It's possible. No offense.
Highest number of Fortune 500 companies per capita. We've secured a water capacity for 1,000 years. I don't know how big that lake's going to be, but it's going to be expensive. We have no stray dogs or cats. Largest oil deposit found on land owned and mineral rights owned by the city. Lowest tax rate in the state, and again, Blaze only asked one more question.
All right, let's give him a hand. Good job. Okay. All right, let's get the next group. Who wants to go next? All right, we'll go with this table.
All right, we had a few titles of our article and kind of the key quote from it. So first one, how Abilene's 15-year plan became a national model for mid-sized cities. We had this Texas city quietly became one of the best places to live for our quality of life efforts. Abilene's explosive growth came without growing pains, and it wasn't an accident, to reflect our kind of forethought and planning. Our last title is Abilene is where top public sector talent goes to build careers. And Shane's synthesis of kind of a key quote existing in those would be, from Storybook Capital to Stargate, how Abilene managed explosive growth with minimal pain and became a national model for other mid-sized cities.
Nice.
All right, very good. The key thing there might be that 15-year plan, right? Yeah, that's getting the how. Okay, let's go to this table.
We're touching different sensories for the learning.
Well, we heard there's a visual opportunity.
Yeah, okay.
So
Here we go.
A little logo rebrand.
Yeah.
Don't touch the logo.
article title is Abilene Ascendant. The West Texas town that leveraged cheap power, smart defense, and relentless innovation in one big. There is an entire article on Chief's phone right now. With maybe a little AI help. So here's just the section. Power play, renewables and AI, Diets Reborn, the defense anchor, people education and quality of life was another section of that article. We like the last quote of it, being Abilene executed relentlessly, proved mid-sized towns can compete at the highest level through its strengths of land, energy, people, and partnerships. That's a quote from Mayor Weldon Hurt, our 25-term mayor.
We already know. We don't have to say it.
Oh, that's good. All right, very good. Blaze, you're up.
We didn't know we could do more than one sheet, so.
But
look at what he left visible.
Oh, man.
So we put Abilene, the capital, correctly spelled, of West Texas for quality of life. 95% of Abilene families are thriving, healthy, and productive. We kind of gave up on the other 5%. So 95%. Great city, private tech partnerships. We had some others, but again, we didn't know we could go for more than one project. In 15 years, the empty data centers, once we're getting all our data from space, we convert the empty data centers to hydroponics and housing. We are the best employer in the U.S., no turnover, and the highest paid millionaires as city staff.
I've never heard that before, so that's good.
Now we know where Stanley's at.
Stanley's request was that we be sued every day so that he would have a job.
All right, give him a hand. All right, just keep your seats for a minute, and no offense, but I'm going to move this one to the middle here. So here's what I want you to do. Well, first of all, just give me, counsel, a takeaway from doing it. What does this elicit from you when you think about this? Give me a takeaway from doing it. We'll start over here.
We genuinely have potential in Abilene, Texas.
Yes, huge potential. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to say this, and I know you know it, but your threat is not that you dream too big and don't hit it. The threat for Abilene is that you set the bar too low and you do hit it. That's really the threat. The threat's not dreaming too big. Because you do, Mayor, you're right. You have incredible potential. I would say, aside from Grapevine, more potential than any city in Texas. I know. I mean, there's not a city that I think of, maybe anywhere, but certainly in Texas, that has more opportunity and potential than this one right now. Which is pretty cool. All right, Lynn, anything you want to say, take away from just the exercise itself? We're going to do a couple more things with it, but.
No.
Okay. All right, Shane, what's the takeaway from doing this?
It was fun to dream and work on synthesizing what some of those dreams would look like so that we could boil it down to hopefully something actionable.
Yeah, we're going to move there here in a little bit, but yeah, for sure. Travis, how about you? What's a takeaway from just participating in it?
I think when I look collectively at what was written, some of the tenets of what we shared earlier about strengths come to fruition in what we've written.
Yeah.
Especially the collaborative community piece.
Yeah. That's cool. Very good. Miguel?
We seem to have the same kind of vision of where we want Abilene to go and see where it's going. Where we want to grow, we want Abilene to thrive, we want people to love our community, enjoy our community, where it's a prosperous town.
Yeah.
We all kind of agree on that general direction.
Right. I think that's really important because, from the very beginning, talking to Emily and then all of you in the interviews, it's very clear there is a lot of alignment. And, some of you have different emphasis than others, but it's a same alignment. And believe me, that's not the case in every city by any means. So we're way ahead of the curve there. All right, Blaze, how about you? What's the takeaway?
Yeah, I really like this discussion, especially with the kind of the department heads, because I feel like, on council and just in general population, we think of in terms of the whole city. Let's move the whole city forward. But sometimes we forget, hey, we've got to break that down into departments or sections, and seeing it through the eyes of each department head is very important. So when you ask, hey, where is Abilene in 15 years? Our health department's going to say, hey, no obesity, no food deserts, very specific. And so when you ask someone from that department, hey, what is the ideal Abilene? It's viewed through the prism of health, right? And from software tech, it's what is the ideal Abilene? Well, it's great city private tech partnerships, so West Texas, Silicon Valley. And so it's a good reminder to me of, yeah, we talk in big general terms, but at the end of the day, we also need to factor in each person is viewing it, what their ideal Abilene is coming from a different segment, and we need to kind of incorporate that in. So it was very, I mean, even the joke, about Stanley, litigation, that's his world, and that's a part of Abilene that most people won't consider it, but that's what makes Abilene for him. And so those are important insights, I think, that we need to factor in.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to Stanley's is you get sued, but you win every time. That's what you want. Yeah. Okay, well, in just a minute, I want to have you walk through and let's identify from each table what you think might be one of, if not the most strategic items. But before we do that, I want to just, going back to what you said, Mayor, maybe make a comparison between some things that we've done in the city of Frisco, because there's some parallels that I think are worth noting. And one of those is, we've been doing their council retreats like this every year for some 15 years or so. And I can't tell you how many years when we got ready to talk about, big dreams, like you're talking about, somebody would say, we want a four-year university in Frisco. And of course, you got 4 of them, but they didn't have any. And the next year would come around and they still didn't have any. But they put it back on the list. Tons of years they would say, we want to get a Fortune 500 company to put their headquarters here. And the next year they didn't get it. And then put it back on the list. And so I would say today, they don't talk about Fortune 500 companies. They talk about Fortune 100 companies. And they don't have one, they have more than one. And so it's just been a reminder to me, and I want to plant that seed in you. You won't accomplish 100% of what you talk about. But you'll accomplish exactly 0% of what you don't talk about. That's the truth. And so, when you dream big, and I've seen this over and over and over, organizations become what you talk about. You become it. You talk about saying, we're going to be the, energy center, and then you start making decisions that help you get there. You talk about saying, we're going to have the best quality of life, and then you figure out, you start having those discussions, and that's what happens. And that's why I say your challenge is not that you could dream too big and not hit it. Your challenge is to dream too low and you do hit it. So I want you to think big because, hey, it's hard anyway. It's hard anyway. So you might as well do something big with it, because it's not going to be less hard if you try to do little things. It's just as hard. It's just as hard. I've worked with a lot of cities that have a low vision, and it's just as hard. It's just as hard, maybe harder. All right, with that said, let's go through and think back here, our overachievers, and my apologies to this table. You didn't know you could use another one. What out of these things jumps up to you as being the most significant or strategic? And if you need to move around to see it, don't worry about it. So what's the most significant or strategic statement that you see on this?
You said it to the whole group or that group? Or,
any of you say, just tell me. What do you, anybody can weigh in on this.
I was going to say the most strategic that my eyes drawn to, I'm surprised Lynn let it slide, was everything kind of connected or said Abilene, with the exception of ACU, but that's another story. That doesn't count. But I think Abilene, just knowing that they're focused on Abilene.
Okay, focus on Abilene. Very good. Somebody else weigh in on it. I hadn't noticed that. That's a very good observation. What's the most significant or strategic statement out of their dream big?
Mine is energy.
This one? Abilene has the highest capacity of energy. All right? Anybody disagree on that one? I'm going to circle them. And that's kind of what I was drawn to too, Mayor. All right, let's move to the middle here. Abilene, the capital of West Texas for quality of life. 95% families thriving. What's the most, and great city private tech partnerships. What's the most strategic or significant statement on theirs? This one? Okay. And then I would also say this one. Maybe a little lesser, but for sure, the tech partnerships. All right. This is a longer one. 15-year plan became a national model for mid-sized cities. Quietly became one of the best places to live. Explosive growth came without growing pains. And it wasn't an accident. I really like that headline. Abilene is where top public sector talent goes to build careers and become millionaires, we know from this one. And from storybook capital to Stargate, how Abilene managed explosive growth with minimal pain became a national model for other mid-sized cities. What's the most significant or strategic statement that's on that one?
Plan.
The plan, the first one. Is that what anybody else disagree? That's the one I thought of too. It's like, well, they're dreaming this big what, and y'all are like, here's how. Here's how. Okay, let's circle that one. All right. Abilene Ascendant, the West Texas town that leveraged cheap power, smart defense, relentless innovation, and won big. The power play, renewables and AI, DICE Reborn, people, education, quality of life. What's the most strategic or significant statement there?
I like the word leverage.
That's okay.
But you know, we've got these things coming at us, so it's like, you know, how do we get the best thing for a buck out of all this stuff?
So leveraging, right here. Anybody disagree? Or have another one that you'd pick?
Innovation one.
Key.
DICE. And what'd you say over here?
Well, the innovation one also, because it had that relentless.
Yeah, I underlined that, the relentless innovation and DICE. We're going to give them 2. Because y'all were the only group I think that mentioned DICE. But it's okay. All right, so now just kind of, we're going to draw this down a little bit, and we're fixing to put council to work, and staff's going to get a little short break. So just kind of think through what some of these big dreams. How you use energy. That's big. Quality of life. City, or we say public-private tech partnerships, what that would look like. 15-year plan, a very solid plan. Leveraging power, defense, innovation, and DICE. So if you kind of think about it, we're going to, in a little bit now, Council, we're going to start thinking about what are your strategic priorities. And you can draw from anything. You know, like one thing that's not put on here is how you solve the housing issue. But you got to solve the housing issue to make all of these possible, right? So you got to think big, but you also got to remember the problem. So, all right. So do you need a quick break? Okay. Just let's come back to our tables. Council, sit at the table. Staff, you around the round tables, but we're not going to use you at this moment. We'll get back to you very shortly, but you got a little bit of a break here.
Don't forget that. Yeah, get your wheels done.
All right, good work, guys. That was a fun thing for me to watch you guys do. Now, we're going to, since this is a high-tech city, we're going to use something that's very high-tech, and that is index cards. And so let the record show that no city funds were used to purchase these index cards, because I know that they are expensive and high-tech. All right, so each of you, council, has 5. And here is the rules. You get to write one idea per index card. Oh, count them up. Blaze, can you double count in there and make sure? It's
there it is. It's stuck.
Okay. I was going to say, it's quite possible I made a mistake, but it's also, you know. So you get to write one idea per card. And what I want you to write on there are, if you could choose your 5 strategic priorities, what would they be? And I want you to write them in a certain way. I want you to write them in a verb-object pattern. So write the verb first, and then the object. So for example, it could be, I know you would never say this, but increase, that's the verb, revenue, that's the object. That's one example. So that's how you got to write. Now, we do a lot of collaborative work, but this is work by yourself. You got to imagine you were back in 3rd grade and where it was cheating if you talked to Michelle Grant about what she put on the test. That's what this is. Don't talk to your neighbor right now. You're going to in a minute, but first you got to get your priorities written.
Are you wanting just 2 words, or we write a full sentence? What do
You can write a full sentence, but I'm mostly interested in that verb object so that I can tell like that. Because I'm not looking, in a minute, let me just let you know where we're going. We're going to get collectively 5 to 7 strategic priorities that you all agree on. And then, for each of those priorities, we're going to write objectives or milestones. You might call them KPIs. Not goals, not SMART goals. That's their problem. Y'all's is to say, this is where we're going, and this is what we mean by that. When we get to that part where we're writing objectives, you're going to be back around the tables, and your staff is going to be helping you. So the proper staff people will be at each of the tables. So we're going to get to that, not real granular thing, but that explicit thing that says this is what we mean by that. But right now, we just want to know what are your priorities. Okay? Any other questions for me on it?
So the priorities, I think of them as rocks, but like the priorities are they quarterly or are they?
No, think 5 to 10 years. Yeah, and big rocks is a good way to say it. So think of Covey's and the big rock things. These are your big rocks. So, you know, you wouldn't want to say paving 17th Street.
Right.
That's a little pebble. It's important if you live on 17th Street, but we need you to think bigger. Okay? All right, go. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. I want to know who has been on the council the shortest amount of time. Okay, Miguel. Who's been on the council the longest? Shane. Okay, so Miguel and Shane, you're going to pair up. Who's been on there the next longest besides Shane? The mayor. And who's second least?
No, I'm second least, I think.
You're second least?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second least,
So the
yeah.
2 of you are together, and that'll put Lynn and Travis together. So you'll need to pair up. And you'll have 10 cards, potentially 10 different priorities. You got to get down to 5 between the 2 of you. Okay? So you can threaten, you can lie, I don't know, however you want to do, you know.
I feel like we're going backwards.
Yeah. Whatever it takes to get down to 5. But once you, as a pair, have said, okay, that card doesn't count, put it aside, we're not going to come back to it. So fight hard for it, Miguel, because once you let go of it, it's gone. Okay, all right, pair up, and we'll let you guys work it out.
Simplest movement is y'all two switching.
Oh, Miguel and Lynn?
Yeah.
I can make it.
Thanks, Mayor.
After a certain time, it's just like, just do
This is
that.
why he's mayor.
Yeah,
Streamline.
Do this, do that.
It's your operational strength.
Yeah.
that's right.
Musical chairs.
You're at 10. As a pair, get down to 5. Go.
All right.
Okay. Now, I abbreviated some of your language just so I can get it on the sheet, but you feel free to, as you want, make defenses of what we have here. No problem. Okay, so let's do this. Let me read through them, and then I want you, let's identify what occurred on at least 2 out of the 3. So strengthen dais, steward resources, improve infrastructure, public safety, and diversify economic sectors. That was group 1. Number 2, I abbreviated this, but it was essentially about community engagement, increasing community engagement. Creating a plan for public safety, so very similar to that one. Increase and / incentivize housing development. 4, focus on growth around Lake Fort Phantom, both commercial and residential. And 5 was address infrastructure. Was that kind of abbreviation? Okay?
Right.
So group 3 was in promote development. Really, I encourage you. It was a little more, well, there was more to it. Promote development while protecting the city and residents without excessive bureaucracy. So, but I didn't write it because that becomes to me an objective that you're saying, and we're doing that, we want to do it this way. And that's why I didn't write it. Increase amenities, it was particularly focused on drawing in new families, but you can't just say new families only, old folks too. Increase amenities. 3, competitive wages for city staff. 4, increase housing, especially, I'm going to say diverse housing options, because that was to make sure it's affordable to people. And then number 5 was improve the development, particularly the aesthetics, on 820 and Business 80.
I-20, yeah.
Yeah, I-20. Did I say 820?
Yeah.
It's because I live 820 all the time.
It'll loop.
I'm in a loop. Okay, so let's just go through and we'll circle the ones. Which of these, are there any of them that occurred on all 3? I didn't think so just right off the bat. But which ones occurred in at least 2?
Infrastructure.
Public safety, right there.
Infrastructure.
Number 3 and 4 on 2 and 3 is increase
Infrastructure
housing
and where else is infrastructure?
bottom of 2.
At the bottom, too.
Right there.
There's infrastructure, yeah. Okay. What else is on there twice?
Housing is 3 and 4, 3 on 2 and 4 on 3.
And column 3, number 4.
And 4 on 3.
Okay. And are there any others that are on there more than 2 times?
Development is addressed.
We've got development here. And
Economic, yeah.
this one here or here?
Column 1, number 5.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. So let's kind of stop there and see what we've got. We've got in no order, because when I give these to you, I'm going to alphabetize them. Because if you don't alphabetize them, somebody's going to say, why did you put that one number 4? That should be the number 1 priority. And then somebody else is going to, but if we just alphabetize them, then what we're saying is they're all important. These are our strategic priorities. No family has one priority. No business has one priority. No city has one priority. All right, so what I'm seeing is, in no particular order, is, and I'm going to leave for now the nouns out, the verbs out, infrastructure, public safety, economic development, housing.
Those are the four.
Those are the four. Right? Okay? Now, I always say, if you have many priorities, you don't have any priorities. So we got to be, that's that balance. Again, we were talking about with Lynn earlier. You got to have a balance. You can't have so many priorities that everything is. But we've got to make sure we're moving towards that vision that we want to accomplish. What are the other priorities that we would argue for that say, hey, this is crucial to getting us there? Keeping in mind that some of these might fit under the one of the four we have. So let's talk about it a little bit.
Are you asking the ones that are not circled, does
Yeah.
it fit under any of the circled ones?
Yeah,
Okay.
what's not circled that either, you could say it fits under one of those four, or you would say, I know it's only listed once, but I think it should be one of them. And maybe in a little different wording, but we want to make sure we're not leaving stuff out.
Strengthening DIAS is part of a solid economic development strategy, in my opinion. If that's what you're asking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is growth around Lake Fort Phantom, and so is increased amenities. And I-20 development, that's all an economic development strategy.
Yeah.
So they could all fit as objectives under economic development.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna write it this way just so I'll remember it. That fits under there. Increasing amenities. Did you say that's under economic development?
Yep.
No one lose these. Growth around Lake Fort Phantom is eco development.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think so too. And this one too, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So that brings me to, you're still working with four. Are competitive wages, steward resources, community engagement, do any of those rise? First of all, are any of them the same? And do any of them rise to the level that you would say they need to be a strategic priority?
Comparative wages would fall under public safety, because public safety is not just police and fire. It's everything to do with, it's infrastructure and everything deals with public safety.
Okay, but I hear where you're coming from on that. What do you think, council?
And if we can't attract employees, then safety goes down. So I think it's an element of it for sure.
Okay, any disagreement on that?
No.
Okay, so somehow we're gonna connect this one to this one. We might write it a little differently when we start looking at the priority, that it's high quality organization, which public safety is a part of, right? Okay, that puts you at 5.
No.
No.
Still four.
It's still 4.
That's right. That puts you at 4. I'm sorry. Good catch. So we have the steward resources and community engagement. Is there a place that goes, or does one of them stand alone?
Well, stewarding resources can go lots of places.
Yeah.
As part of an economic development strategy, if we don't steward the money that's generated by the economic development well and reinvest it properly and use it properly, then you don't maintain the environment. But it's also part of infrastructure. We're going to rebuild things and replace things and repair things. If we don't take care of the things we acquire and replace, then we just stay in an endless cycle.
It seems to me it goes a little better under infrastructure. What do y'all think?
That's fine.
That's great.
Because, to your point, I mean, you've got to be building it, taking care of it, but I think it's an important one to do, okay? It's going to make sense in a minute. You're going to get a break, and I'll straighten it out. And when you come back, it'll all be nice and ready for you to do more work. Okay, that leaves us, we've not addressed this one. I think everything else has been addressed. In group 2, whoever you are, you can speak to it, lobby it for it, or there may be something that now that you kind of see, you go, oh, really, there's a higher one, and maybe community engagement fits under it. Or it might be an important one to keep. I mean, this is your call.
I think communicating what we do is an important piece of all of those things, because we can do all those things, but how did you tell the public how they are receiving those benefits? So you have to be able to communicate those things in order for us to complete the job, per se.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'd go a step beyond that, because I feel like our city messages pretty well. We use the tools that we have, right? We do press releases and news conferences and media Mondays and all those things. The gap is getting citizens to engage it.
Mm.
It's not that the message isn't out there.
Yeah.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so many of our citizens going about their daily lives, right? They're working and raising their families and going to school and doing their thing, and they're not paying attention to us. And I think that's the mystery to solve, to me, from a messaging standpoint.
Yeah.
The messages are out there.
Yeah.
We just have to get people to engage with it.
Right. What's the population of Abilene right now?
131.
131, yeah. So, you're a big city, or you're a medium-sized city. You're certainly not a small town, but you're going to grow, and this can continue to be more important because it's kind of like, I know we talked to, some of us talked about this on the phone. As people come in, you want to have the right blend of, hey, we're glad you're here, and we're not losing that identity that makes Abilene great, And so, again, not to put words in your mouth, though I'm not beyond it, I know. Community engagement probably going to be a pretty big issue, if you want to be successful. Because you don't want to end up with two Abilenes, right? The ones that have been here for all these years, ones that just came in. You want them to feel part. You also want the people that have been here for a long time to feel like, oh, it's still my Abilene. And again, you can't control all of that, but by visioning and saying that's important to us, you attract people that will help you make it happen. So I could see community engagement becomes a pretty big one if you think.
On its own.
What's that?
On its own?
Yeah. As a strategic priority.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's a functional purpose to these because it gives staff great direction. It's also, I don't mean this in an unhealthy way, it's also political in nature because you're saying, hey, this is our policy, that we want to have a high level of community engagement. And it's important as an elected official to say those things. Okay, so let me make sure I got it right. I'm going to give you a break. In no particular order and not counting verbs, we've said infrastructure, public safety, or possibly organizational development. We might fit all that in there. Diversify economic development is number 3. Housing, number 4. And community engagement is 5. We right about that? Okay. So here's what you get to do. Take about a 15-minute break. We're going to come back. We're going to divide and conquer. So we're going to assign, we've got 5 of them. We'll do a round of 3 and then a round of 2. We'll say, okay, you're taking this one, you're taking this one, you're taking that one. 2 council members on each priority. We'll work with the staff to help create really good, clear objectives. When you come back, I'll kind of give you my explanation of what those are. Okay? Questions for me? All right, good work. Take a break. We'll come back. Okay, council, let me, before we move to milestones, let me make sure you might want to help me on how I worded what was originally planned for public safety. Then we want to say, well, we want really resources for the whole city. So I wrote it, and I'm not sure I got it right, resources for public safety and city organization. And is that, I don't want to put this in a direction you didn't want it to go. So what I understood was you don't want resources just for public safety. You're thinking about how do we resource the entire organization. Is that?
Well, and Miguel, your card from our batch was the public safety, and it was a public safety plan.
Yes.
And
Yep.
not so much the resources. I don't know if you had something specific in mind that was different from resources.
We can certainly create, I've got that down there, that plan can be a part of one of the objectives that we come up with. So.
And then the other part that got pulled in was funding.
Right.
Budget funding.
That's why I put resources. So I might wordsmith this a little bit, but you guys got it, right? What we're doing. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to have a couple of you take the infrastructure one. A couple of you take this one, the resources on organization public safety. We're going to skip 3 and 4 for now, and we're going to have a couple of you on community engagement. We'll do a round of it. You guys will get a newsprint. We'll ask you to write, 3 to 5 good objectives. And I'll tell you about what those are in a minute. We'll come back and report out, and then we'll break up and assign some of you to this one and some of you to that one. Okay? All right, so when we think about objectives or milestones, here's the way I like to help you do them well. Think as objectives as those statements that tell us we're moving in the right direction at the right speed to accomplish what this priority is. So I always use this illustration. It's dumb, but it's true. When my oldest son graduated from high school, we live in Grapevine, he went to Oklahoma State. He's an architect. He's done well. We still had 2 teenagers at home. And my wife would say, let's go see Zach and Meredith, his now wife. And being the sports lover that I am, I would say, let's go see a football game and see him at a game. Okay, so we make that agreement. So I know if I'm going to go to the game, that's the big priority. Be at the game, go eat at Eskimo Joe's, be there for all that stuff. So I know I got to pull out of the driveway with my wife and 2 teenagers, happy, sad, or indifferent, by a certain time. I know I've got to hit I-35 by a certain time. And I've got to turn and go north, not south like I want to do so I can go watch my beloved Baylor Bears. I got to go north, right? I got to cross the Red River by a certain time, et cetera, et cetera. None of those things are the completion of the vision. The vision is to get to the game, see Zach and Meredith, all that. But all of those things are necessary for the vision to come about. Otherwise, it's just a dream. That's, to me, what we're looking for with milestones. When you reach a milestone or a mile marker, you haven't completed the vision. Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. But you got to do it or else you can't really reach that vision. Another way to think of it is these answer the question, what do you mean by that? So if we say, for example, one of our strategic priorities is infrastructure, your objectives ought to help answer the question for Emily, what do you mean by that? Do you mean you want every house to have free Wi-Fi? Is that what you mean? No, that's not what we mean. We mean this. Okay? So that's, now, I'm not looking for tactics or initiatives. So if it's down to the tactics of, I want you to pave 17th Street by the end of the year, like, that's an initiative. That's a tactic. Tell us you want an aggressive or a more aggressive street repaving plan. That's what we're looking for. Does that resonate? Okay, enough of that said. So I need 2 of you to say that you want infrastructure, and is that table? So really, that's really what you need to ask is, do you want to work with this group? Oh, never mind. Okay, so Shane, you want on that one? Who else wants it? Lynn. Okay, y'all got infrastructure. Off you go. Then I need 2 of you to take the resourcing, public safety, and the whole organization. Who wants that? all right, that's Blaze and Miguel. All right, so Mayor, you're by yourself over here with community engagement unless Travis comes back. If Travis comes back, we're going to put him over here with the mayor, okay? All right, I'll bring you a sheet around so you can do it, but y'all start working on it. 3 to 5 really good objectives or milestones that tell us what you mean by this topic. All right. All right, Lynn, you good?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's, you can just,
Not just me.
I'll tell you what, I think it might be easier to bring council back to the U. Staff, you stay at the tables you're at. And let's let y'all report, because then we're going to change our tables up for the last
Which group's up?
Great experience.
Who wants to go first?
Lynn's already up.
Lynn, you want to go first?
Sure.
Come on up here.
He likes to be first.
I'm going to scoot this into y'all's lap, but you can see it. Yeah, bring it up here and put it on here.
You can stay there, Travis, because you're bringing ours up.
Okay, that's great.
All right. Lynn, you've got the floor.
All right, we got infrastructure. So we have 5 points. So awkward with people over there. I gotta get over here. I can't read right to left. Sorry. Number 1, fund infrastructure development at a rate that exceeds asset deterioration. That includes streets, water, stormwater, sewer lines, IT, our radio infrastructure, and includes our building and facilities that we currently own. Number 2, continue planning for Cedar Ridge Reservoir. We all felt like that was extremely important for the long-term future. Number 3, prioritize proactive preventive maintenance over repair to extend the useful life of our assets and avoid emergency repairs. Number 4, reestablish a rolling 5-year CIP informed by master plans. So if we're going to use the CIP and roll it every year, we need master plans for whatever we may allocate the CIP for, whether it's street replacement, sewer line replacement, part of that funding the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 5, ensure that our infrastructure does not impede economic development.
All right. Impede, elaborate a little bit on that last one.
Well, for example, Michael brought up a really good example of an area of town that's, I gotta move over here, sorry. The area west of Cedar Creek, south of where?
West of Cat.
West of Cat Claw. I've said Cedar Creek all the way long.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of undeveloped land that is developable west of Cat Claw Creek. I got it right there.
Okay.
But there's absolutely no sewer infrastructure out there, and we're on a gravity feed system. So we have a lot of developable land that developers would probably be interested in building housing, retail development, whatever the case may be, but we have zero sewer infrastructure out there.
I got it.
So if that's something we want to go after, it's 5-year plan to get sewer out, 3-year plan to get gravity-fed sewer out there, things like that.
I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's good. Hey, good job. Give them a hand. All right, who's next?
We're still.
Go to another table.
All right,
Bowling.
come on up. Who's reporting? Blaze. All right.
We're still, yeah, she's checking. Wordsmith.
That's all right.
I like that.
So you're going to give us all this and some.
Oh yeah, I'm doing a report. Yeah. It'd be
All right,
very
we had
functional
public
for you.
safety and city organization. We came up with, a lot of this was in relation to hiring and kind of as Abilene grows, potentially 50, 60,000 over the next 8, 9, 10 years, how that looks as far as a hiring process. So a well-coordinated hiring plan across the departments, just because within the departments you're going to have different criteria. Police and fire are going to be tied directly to population. Certain officers have to be per 1,000, whereas finance, zoo, all the other departments aren't tied to population, but they're going to still need more personnel. And so having a coordinated hiring plan across all the different departments and their individual criteria, I think is going to be important that we're aware of now, because it's going to ramp up real fast over the next few years, all the way through 9, 10 years. We're going to be close to potentially double our population. So I think that's key. CIP for technology. what is this, efficiency through?
Through the technology.
Oh, yeah, achieving efficiency through the implementation of the technology, whether it's with the fire and police or new software for finance as they ramp up and deal with larger departments. They're going to need additional software and technology, and a proactive tech approach. Kind of saw that with the the cyber attack incident. Being proactive, but also this ties in with the CIP for the technology, getting ahead of the needs of some of that technology purchases and the implementation so that we're not reacting, we're being responsive and being proactive. And then this is a multi-year service level that I will let Noel speak to because I didn't understand it, but I'm going to let him speak to it after. And then 5 was maintain a competitive workforce per the nation for public safety standards. We want to be pulling in, we want to be an attractive place, pulling in fire, police, all the department services from everywhere, in addition to training in-house. And so we want to be as competitive as we can. We're seeing that we're losing a little bit of from some departments as they go private side, so we need to make sure that we're staying competitive so that we retain at least our workforce. And not just maintain, but we've got to grow. Some are going to need to grow by 30% over the next 8-9 years. So we've got a rapid scale up in the next few years that we're going to need to account for. And Noel, you want to take number 4?
Noel, you want to say anything?
CIP for staffing, basically.
Okay.
Some departments have better metrics than others. Fire, police, utilities, parks. They have professional associations where they can borrow from metrics that are pretty much best practice. But that's not always clear for other departments.
Yeah.
So how do you quantify for finance and support departments that need to also rise to support
With it,
the
yeah.
departments that are getting the staffing? We have to spend a bit more time trying to understand what is that metric for those departments.
Yeah.
So let's call them support departments.
Yeah, that's great. All right, great work. Give them a hand. And Emily, I should have asked you about this a minute ago, but let's ask about this one. Does this give you the clarity you need for now kind of, okay, how do we build a work plan that supports those things?
Yes, I can visualize the goals that could go under those by which to support them. So,
Okay,
yes.
great. And did you get to see them? You asked that same thing about the one on infrastructure. Because it's really important that I don't want you to come away going, I don't know what they meant by that.
It's okay if you want to say that one's better.
Whoa.
Well, the handwriting's certainly not.
I love the competitiveness.
No, I believe we can definitely work.
You did? Okay, great. All right. She is, notice how she can handle that. All right, who's doing the community engagement?
Travis?
Travis, come on up.
Did you get the?
Yes, we rewrote it.
Okay.
Okay. Take it away.
My OCD's coming out. I'm trying the best I can. Community, I know. It's still cricket.
Don't look at it.
Don't look at it.
Look at the words. Just look at the words.
Preeminent source of municipal information, proactive public education initiatives, quality, effective internal communications, purposeful collaboration with voices from across the community.
All right. Anyone elaborate on it? Any of it? Or you can just leave it there?
No, I am.
And I should ask council, any questions from you on this? No? You good? And I'm going to say, Emily, you helped write these, so anything you need help with, you're good?
I think we're good.
All right. We'll, can always get somebody else, right? Okay. All right. Let's do this now. We've got 2 more to go, so we'll have 3 council members working on these 2. These are big ones. Economic development and housing stock. I just put it that way because there's lots involved in housing, as we talked about. So, I need 3 volunteers that want to do economic development for council. Lynn, Shane, and Miguel. And that means the 3 of you have housing. Okay? Now, where do you want them to go for
Well,
this?
probably let's all staff kind of like get up and we'll reshuffle. And y'all know enough about the work that you do, whether you need to be in one of those. Although planning and development is kind of in both. So, Tim, I'm sorry, you're going to have to pull yourself.
So, council, let's put those of you that are doing economic development at that table, and those of you that are doing housing, let's put you at this table by the door. Okay? And same thing, you're going to write us 3 to 5 objectives. Y'all did really good work on these, I want to tell you. I'm proud of you. Nice job. All right, how's my economic development group? You got it? Okay. All right, let's report out. And who wants to go first? All right, economic development, you get to go first. Who's presenting? Mari's delegating. That's good. All right. I'm going to get back here. Everybody, you can just put it right on top of that spine, Sean.
Okay, incentivized development and training of tradespeople. That's a concern, is having enough trades, not only for city projects, but projects citywide.
Mm-hmm.
And how can we do that? We talked about some different in the weeds things, so we didn't put it on the list, but that was something that we felt like we should work towards. Plan for infrastructure repairs after major construction initiatives. In particular, we were talking with Michael about Dias and all the work that's being done there, and basically it's just doing what we can to maintain the roads until they're done, and then we'll come in and do a full reconstruction so there's a nice road in place after all the trucks are done tearing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Similar with AI, but AI and a lot of those roads are county and TxDOT roads, so not as much of an impact on the city specifically. Increase investment in lifestyle amenities. A lot of things as you look at economic development and bigger companies that are looking at where they want to put a headquarters, where they want to bring people. You may have multiple cities that have similar scoring on what's available, like water and housing and workforce, and so the deciding factor is what kind of amenities are there. What are the things that people can do when they're not working?
Yeah.
So how can we increase that? And then diversifying economic development funding sources. Instead of having just ad valorem taxes, sales taxes, having that oil well with all the other revenue coming in from that. You know, something to where we're not as hamstrung in a sense or beholden to the limitations of HB2 as we face the growth that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
and struggling to keep up with that. So having alternative sources of revenue to help us meet the needs that we will be running into.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Let's give them a hand. It's a big one. Emily, any questions you have about this?
I actually do. So incentivized development and training of tradespeople. Does that mean this?
An example that I gave was I've got friends that have gone through respiratory therapy training at Hendrick. And the way that they do that is for every month of education that they pay for and provide for you while they're a student, they're working at Hendrick. And then when they're finished and have their certificate or their training's done, then they are committed to that number of months that their training was paid for to work for Hendrick afterwards. And so I didn't know if there was an opportunity for us to do something similar with trades where we're helping them with education at TSTC and they're kind of interning here, and then when they're done, that month for month transfers to they're working with the city, they're committed to working with the city. Don said we were already doing that with some things with the driver CDL, but expanding that into the trades and some of the other things where we can provide a means of hopefully exposing them enough to the city's people and the processes to where some of them will even want to stay beyond their commitment time.
Okay. So this is specifically about the city organization in regards to the training.
Well, and then there was the discussion of, are there ways that we can expand that to where the benefit happens citywide? How can we encourage trades to come in? Because there's a shortage of trades where TSTC is working on training tradespeople, but there's just a large demand. I mean, there's not just the AI Vintage Centers and Dias, but Bass Pro Shops and other private investment and growth and building that's happening, and all of those need those trades, the plumbing, electrician, HVAC, that we're short on, and how do we encourage them to come here?
Well, and we were talking about it not being an impediment to economic development, right? And so we have to have plumbing inspectors, we have to have electrical inspectors, we have to have all those things. If you take those kids out of TSTC that have been trained in those trades, use a program like this in exchange for, because you can really impede. If you can't get a place inspected and a CO issued, then all of this is for nothing, right? They can't move into the building. And so we were talking about how do we get some more staff in here to help facilitate some of the COs being issued, and that was just one method that was mentioned of, okay, can we take a brand new graduate from TSTC and or we incentivize helping them with their school in exchange for a month service to the city for 4 years or whatever, and we get some building inspectors out of the deal and can get some COs issued.
So the way I read it was incentivized development, but that's not what you meant. It's more of the development and training.
Right,
Because that looked like two different
Developing the
topics
people.
to me. Yes,
Developing the
okay.
people, yeah.
So just
For
for
development
clarity,
and
maybe if we
training.
could say incentivized training and development, because that, to me, I'm seeing it as the city's going to incentivize development. And now that I understand, we may not have to rewrite it, but
it's good.
I read it as we're going to incentivize development and we're going to train tradespeople. So that was just my
Yeah,
confusion.
incentivize training and development of tradespeople.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That helped me anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate it.
Anything else?
No, I think I understand them all. Thank you.
All right. I want to just make a quick comment, council, on what you were saying, Shane, about lifestyle amenities. It's certainly important, no doubt. But I will tell you also, just the ability that your council shows, like I've watched today, to relate to each other in an honorable way and even disagree on stuff, that's a huge attraction for corporations that want to come here. Because they don't want to move their people to cities that are so dysfunctional at the governance level that who knows what might happen next. And I would just say, I've watched how you guys interact, and nobody's perfect, but y'all do really good. And, kudos to you for that. And that will serve you really well as you're watching and trying to attract these folks in. I know it's sort of like, yeah, of course, but believe me, it's not, of course. It's not. Anybody in the local government business can tell you, it's uncommon. So good job. All right, Blaze, with that, quit fighting with Lynn and come up here and talk.
So the economic development over the last 5-6 years has really led to this housing being a top priority. And so what we came up with, for context, we're looking at about roughly 2,000 new homes and rental units are coming online last year. And if we grow by 70,000 over the next 10 years, that's 7,000 new housing units that we'll need per year. So we're at 2,000, we need to roughly get to 7,000 per year. So we've got to basically triple our new housing units that are coming online each year over the next 10 years. So what we came up with was, and Matthew may give some more details on some of this because he's got it on his laptop, but number one, optimize zoning and land development regulations. We're already kind of doing that with the LDC revamp, kind of coordinating a little better on that towards the goal of streamlining housing for good quality housing. 2, identify and promote infrastructure ready areas for housing. This idea I really like, I think we all really like this, is where basically a color-coded map of areas of infill development areas that utilities departments can highlight and go, this is a very ready area. We've got all the connections ready. It's green. You can build your subdivision here with minimal cost, etc. Here are other areas over here. You can build if you want, but we don't have the connections. We're not ready for it there. But if you want to pay more, it's going to take more work. You can still build there. So we're not necessarily telling builders where to build, but we're showing them, hey, we need housing fast. This is a good way to make it easier for them to identify those opportunities. 3, create a neutral development engagement process. And I think Noel had suggested like a builders summit where you have local builders, but also potentially outside builders come in and get feedback. What's slowing you down? What are the hurdles? What more do you need to know? What can we do to help you? And just kind of a collaborative approach of how can we triple charge this process. And so having kind of that may be a home builders association summit type of situation where we have staff and home builders association kind of work on a summit. I think that'd be great. And then 4, evaluate opportunities to modify the floodplain and the floodway constraints. So much of Abilene, or at least the undeveloped areas, are under floodplain restrictions, and so freeing up a lot of that area so that it can actually be built in, I think, is going to be crucial. So those are the 4 that we identified. Anyone, Matthew or anyone, want to kind of expound on any of these that I didn't explain? It's good.
Couldn't have said it better.
Excellent. All right, give him a hand. Good job. Nice job. All right,
we got an A+ and maybe a C.
Yeah. Lord, that was terrible. Couldn't have said it better.
all right, city manager, you were all in a part of a lot of this. Anything you have questions about?
No.
A lot of it, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be a big lift, but I think it's where I understand it.
Okay, let me pull you back around the U, and who else am I missing? Miguel. We're running good schedule-wise, and the mayor said I'd get a bonus if we get out, early. So I'm tracking for that. So let me kind of tell you what we'll do next, and then see if there's anything, Emily, you want us to dive into before we adjourn. But so I will create a report that captures and synthesizes, just like you saw me synthesize the reputational drivers. I'll kind of do that with the pressing problems and strengths, weaknesses, so that it's a good, concise, not too wordy report. But then most importantly, capturing these 5 strategic priorities and the objectives that come under each of those. I'll send that to city manager in the next week or so, and then she will, work with it. If we need to wordsmith it, change some things up, but it'll eventually come to you. Our recommendation is that you, at a regular scheduled council meeting, approve it as your strategic, or adopt it as your strategic vision. And then once that's done, and probably even before that's officially done, they will begin developing the strategic work plan that really fleshes out what initiatives are already going on that support these, what new initiatives are they going to start, and we're glad to help with that in any way that we need to, but many times staff doesn't really need an outside help for that, because that's kind of in their wheelhouse. So that's kind of the plan from it, okay? Questions for me about that? All right. Anything, Emily, you want to ask about regarding that?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. I don't know that we really have anything else we need to do. Have I missed anything?
How did we do compared to other cities? Was this the best session ever? Maybe.
It's pretty good. I'm going to tell you. I'm pretty
That was not
notorious.
the last question.
I'm notorious for saying that West Texas is best Texas, and you've pretty much proven it today. So hats off to you guys for that. So I always like to let you kind of do takeaways for the day. And then we'll let the mayor go last, and you can say anything you want and adjourn us. But I really enjoyed working with you, seriously. I'm excited. I mean, obviously, I hope you can feel I love this city and this area, and I think you have an incredible future, and we're really proud for you. So, thank you for giving us the opportunity to work with you and for just the great engagement all day long. We just let somebody volunteer to do from the council takeaways, and then we'll kind of go from there. So, who wants to start?
Takeaways?
All right, hi Miguel. What's a takeaway from the day?
For one, thank you for doing this for us, and thank you for city staff. You don't get to really have these in-depth conversations with city staff all the time, so it's kind of really cool to see their perspectives, and you gain a lot of insight during this. And so I mean, I've learned so much today, and I'm very encouraged by the direction based upon this whole entire thing, where we have the potential to go.
Yeah. All right. Very good. So you went first, so you get to choose. Do we go to your right or to your left?
We'll let Travis take the wheel.
Sure. All right, Travis, you're up.
I think it was an opportunity to just be reminded of a lot of the, I think I'm going to look back a little bit. The trust that was built when Robert was here, that's continued to carry on now that Emily's here, because of the free-flowing communication between us and the department heads. And so I think that just comes to mind. But I think also I echo with what Miguel shared. I appreciate your approach. I appreciate the homework that you did. He did a ton of homework prior to this meeting, which I appreciated because you understood a little bit of our personalities and the different things about our city. And so, yeah, just looking forward to what fruit comes from it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Shane, takeaways.
Thank you. I'll echo what they did with regard to thank you for the work that you did preparing for today and then conducting the meeting today. It's, as an operational mindset person, it's good to take a step back and look at how are other things coming and interplaying and possibly interfering with what we want to see for a future for the city, and so it was healthy for me to be able to participate in that and have something brought to mind that that's a challenge I hadn't considered.
Yeah.
And so it's good that we talked about that. And then here's some things, and hopefully, I feel like I was able to contribute quite a bit in the infrastructure discussion in particular. That was really easier to dive into because it's operational. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's that abandon yourself to the strength of others.
Strategic and forward-looking, and so that took us longer.
You guys did a great job with that, though, too. All that talk was very good.
I appreciate the opportunity we had to bring all these things together and help define a direction and a vision for where we want to go.
Good. Well, thank you. Lynn.
You're getting paid, so I'm not going to echo the thank yous.
That's fair, and that's really kind of our relationship now.
I think you've done a great job today. I appreciate all your facilitating. I'll just offer some historical perspective. 15 years ago now or so, some of the staff in here remembers this. I remember watching council meetings trying to decide what days we were going to furlough employees because we didn't have any money. And sales tax had fluctuated so much that it was probably during the 2008 downturn, and we had staff that we were that couldn't come to work and get paid for 2 or 3 days, and I think about today where we are. These are really good problems to have. Yeah. We need deliberate planning. That's why we're doing this. But Abilene is in a really, really good position right now. It's been a lot worse, and we were talking about it over the table over there. Some of us have been around long enough to remember what the oil bust was like in the 80s, and we're just so far ahead of where we've been historically, and we've got to steward this well and be deliberate. I know sometimes citizens get frustrated with us because things move so slow, but there's a reason for that. Yeah. We've got to be deliberate about the application of these resources and strategic about how we use this time, this season in the city's history to really set the tone for the next 10, 25, 30, even beyond years. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to be on council when there's surplus funds, you know. But the question is, how are we going to use those properly and responsibly and conservatively? And I've been really encouraged by the discussions today. Staff, y'all been great. Thanks for all the insight into things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Thank you. Really appreciate it. All right, Blaze, we'll come to you.
So I've participated in these type of strategic discussion days for a number of charities over the years, and to be honest, I dread them. I do not look forward to them. A lot of times they are, in my opinion, a waste of time. There was one many years ago that it was very beneficial to that one because that nonprofit was going through a revenue and an identity crisis, and that was a very needed strategic meeting, and it saved that ship. And so there is a time and place for it. And I think you have done a great job today because we're not going through a revenue crisis, fortunately, but we are at a crossroads, and there's so many opportunities that it can freeze us in, well, we don't know which ones to pick, right? And which route we pick will really dictate where Abilene is over the next 50 years. And so the decisions that we make, I would say over the ones we made over the last year and really over the next 1 to 2 years, I think will have a defining, long-lasting impact on Abilene. And so this was, for me, I really appreciate staff taking, I know you guys don't have anything to do back in your offices, but I appreciate you guys taking the day. I can only speak for me on council, but this has been incredibly and surprisingly very beneficial to me from an insight, but also from hopefully from a staff perspective. Okay, this is where we want the city to head. I think that just that one discussion, I forget what the topic was, but getting the insights from health and from tech, and just that prism of seeing each person, each department is viewing Abilene through their prism. This is what's important. This is where they see Abilene should be, and that's how they should look at it. And so taking all that together, I think, is going to be the key, but also acknowledging, hey, there's a bunch of different viewpoints that we've got to bring and coalesce together. And I thought, just for me personally, that was a really good insight, because sometimes we can get lost in the big picture, and sometimes we've got to remember, hey, these are individual dreams and aspirations that we got to kind of all coalesce together. So that was very important just for me to see. And I think that it's a good time to be on council, like Lynn said, with the revenue. I think we talk about strategic reinvestment and investing smartly. The decisions that this council makes over the next year or two, some of them are not going to be easy. There's the quick decision, especially on housing, that balance. Do we go the cheap, fast, satisfies that housing need versus the quality long term? And there's not a right or wrong decision. It's going to be, as needed. But this was a really good discussion, and I really do appreciate everyone being involved. I actually gained a lot from it, so thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Mayor, before we go to you, Emily, anything you want to say, close out?
I would like to thank the council for taking the risk on doing something different. I know that this was not a standard annual event for you all. And I appreciate you, Mayor, first of all, for listening to my ideas, saying, yeah, let's do it, because it's been incredibly beneficial for me as coming into this city without a lot of history. And I know that it will be beneficial for staff as we're looking at the future and the budget. So it's incredible time, a big commitment for you all. And thank you for engaging. You all were highly engaged, and we as staff truly appreciate that. And I just, somewhat to echo your words, we realize that to be with the city of Abilene right now is an incredible honor. And it's a huge responsibility because we are making legacy decisions. And it's exciting, and sometimes it's scary, but I appreciate that we are all in it together. And days like this reminds me that it's Team Abilene, and it's going to be great.
All right, very good. All right, Mr. Mayor, we'll let you have the final word. Anything you want?
Well, first of all, I want to let everyone know that Councilman Yates couldn't be here today. He had a conflict, but you did have an opportunity, Mike, to visit with him and have some input from him. It was important for him, but we all understand we have jobs, so I just wanted to let everyone know that Councilman Yates did have conflict and wished he could have been here. You know, we don't get to have these roundtable conversations a lot like this, and I mean, it's just this new idea, this new concept, you know, we all, it's been very enjoyable. But to get to have these not just with our council, but with our staff, I'm blown away how gifted and talented our staff of Abilene, Texas is. We have a tremendously talented group of department heads and employees, and everything that they've done here today, it makes me love this city even more. And it makes me love everyone coming together like this. So I appreciate staff so much. Mike, I appreciate you. I appreciate the citizens who came here today. That does mean a lot. We appreciate it. And I think this was very successful. That being said,
I knew it.
It is now 3:14 p.m. and this meeting of the Abilene City Council is adjourned.
Good job. Good job, everybody.
One thing Weldon's gonna do is land that plane.